Check, check. Keep it moving. See clarity every day. A little bit more. I have a headache, a really bad one. And I normally don't get headaches. Somebody brought me some already.
You ain't feeling too good? Hanging out with me. You hung out with me 2 days ago.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. I call to order this regular meeting of the Savannah-Chatham County Board of Education. This meeting is also live streamed. I will ask our board secretary if this meeting was posted, and she assures me it was. If you all, well, before we start, it is wonderful to see a packed house. And I would remind you that we meet on the first Wednesday of every month. And we'd like to see you all at all of our meetings. If we'll all stand.
Good afternoon. The Savannah Arts Academy Skylarks are an audition group of 11th and 12th grade treble singers. They routinely perform at school events and concerts, as well as throughout the community. The Skylarks are directed by Mrs. Mary Woodard Thompson. She is in her first year here at Savannah Arts, but her 14th year in the district. Miss Woodard Thompson is the Director of Music Ministries at Lutheran Church of the Redeemer and has been a church musician for 12 years. She has also served as a director and clinician at District Honor Chorus and All City Chorus. After the singing of the national anthem, would you please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave, home of the brave.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairs.
Let's hear it again for the Skylarks.
President Moss, I make a motion that we approve that the agenda as printed or modified be approved with the following revisions. Revision of item 7.26, legal settlement title change. Item 7.27, legal settlement title change. Deletion of item 7.11, budget transfer, Fund 308 Whitney Boardroom roof replacement. Item 7.31, board policy GAR H, employee leaves and absences, mid-year review. Item 7.35, Fund 308, Whitney Boardroom roof replacement, Bonnets of Georgia, change order 1 item. And then item 7.40, workers' comp claim, and item 7.41, workers' comp claim.
I'll accept a second of that motion. Second, thank you. Any discussion? No. All in favor? And the vote is 9-0.
President Moss, furthermore, I make a motion to amend approved agenda to add item 7.42, East Plus 3, Coastal Middle School interior renovations.
Second? Second by Mr. Kachmar. All in favor? Mr. Smith, thank you. All right, 9-0. Thank you. Oh, announcements. I'm not supposed to have this. Oh, I do. Okay. Tuesday, December 12th, Town Hall Community Conversations. We had our first one last night at, Georgetown. I almost said Germantown. Georgetown. And it was fantastic. Next, on December 12th, it will be at West Chatham Middle School from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Thursday, December 14th, is the Eggs and Issues Legislative Breakfast. That's with the Chamber. December 18th, December 18th through Monday, January 1st. I know our students will like this announcement. It's our winter break. All district facilities will be closed from December 20th through January 1st. Okay. December 19th is the Savannah Area Chamber of Commerce annual meeting at the Westin. Then Tuesday, January 2nd, is staff planning, and it's students again, it's a student holiday. Thursday, January 4th, CETA annual meeting at the Trade and Convention Center. Saturday, January 6th, is Character Counts Community Celebration at 400 East Broad Street. And January 9th, parents listen closely. January 9th, report cards issued. Let me repeat that. January 9th, report cards issued. Then January 15th is our Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday. And in remembrances, and I was given a new sheet. Okay, I will start with the names we have already. Is this it? Mr. Nathaniel Thomas, so Director in Academic Affairs, date of passing November 14th, 2023. Ms. Geneva Williams, bus driver, date of passing November 5th, 2023. Aaron Duplinkin Jr., fourth grade student at Hurd Elementary School. Samaj Floyd, 10th grade student at Jenkins High School. If we call, stand for a moment of silence. Now we will have our superintendent's report.
Good afternoon. It is always an honor and a pleasure to begin my report with a Student of the Month. Our Student of the Month for November is a senior at Windsor Forest High School. This high honor roll student is also a top student in math and humanities at her school, and she has perfect attendance. Our honoree is a peer mediator, a member of the National Honor Society, a student ambassador, helped start a backpack food program for her high school, and is a member of student council. What an awesome resume. In describing this student, her nominator, Mr. Michael Barth, said, "She believes that all students have value and can fulfill their dreams in life if they have the right people to support them." He went on to say, "In my 25 years in public education, this student is probably in the top 5 students I have known in terms of leadership, helping others without ever expecting anything in return, and in terms of kindness. She is a top scholar academically at Windsor Forest High School, but really this nomination is about her desire to make Windsor Forest a better place for all adults and children who walk through the doors." When asked what motivates her for her academic success, the Student of the Month replied, "This is my mantra. Keep your head up and forward, never down and backwards." Out of the mouths of children. Please help me congratulate the Superintendent Student of the Month for November 2023, Treziah Freeman. As she makes her way around the horseshoe, Triz, as she likes to be called, will attend Georgia Southern University next fall with plans to pursue a degree in counseling. Her dream is to open a shelter for families. Congratulations to Triz. I'd like for her family to remain standing, as well as any faculty and staff at Windsor Forest and at the castle. Special thanks to nominator also Michael Barth. Ms. Freeman is taking home multiple gifts and acknowledgments with her today from a host of community partners, to include First Credit Union, Advertising Specialties, Georgia United Credit Union, Savannah State University, Gulfstream, Plant Riverside District Gelato, Savannah Music Festival, and Bahama Joe's. Triz and the students of her English Language Arts class will also be receiving a printed copy of her favorite book, The Beast Within, A Tale of Beauty's Prince by Serena Valentino. From our sponsor, East Shaver Booksellers, that's who the book comes from. Lastly, she will take home a portrait by Upscale Photography provided by Savannah-Chatham County Public Schools. Again, congratulations. And keep your hands up for more applause, because I have many more great and amazing things to share with you about our district. Hats off to Beach High Bulldog Battalion Female Raider Team, who placed 4th overall at a recent state competition and earned an individual 2nd place finish in the Raider fitness test. Raider competitions are a series of physically demanding activities that includes traversing a rope bridge, a 3.2-mile team run, a Raider fitness challenge team, and a cross-country rescue. Kudos to this outstanding and physically fit group of athletes. Also, please join me in congratulating Harrison Tran, a student that I have met Personally, he is outstanding in every way. He is also a junior at Jenkins High School. He has recently been selected as a member of the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Lab's Student Advisory Council. Harrison is one of 26 students nationwide to receive this prestigious news program award that features students' perspectives on critical issues about national news items, and the importance of that unique story coverage. And it will also allow him to participate in an advanced journalism internship. Well done, Harrison. I did not have time to stop at Parker's this morning, but I do have time to pause and thank them for their amazing donation to our schools. Founder and CEO Greg Parker presented a $100,000 check to our district last month. Parker's donates a portion of the proceeds of gas sold on the first Wednesday of every month to local schools identified by this program. It's the largest donation since the Fueling the Communities program started in 2011. Thank you, Mr. Greg Parker, for your generosity. I'd also like to thank many people in this room and beyond for their participation in the Literacy Week last month. The visit that Kareem Weaver made to Savannah was one of the big highlights of the week. In addition to addressing a luncheon for a group of lead educators, Mr. Weaver also gave community members the opportunity for questions after a public screening of the documentary, The Right to Read. We will continue to follow our North Star. We are very appreciative of Mr. Weaver's presence, as well as the community support of many of our partners, to include United Way of Coastal Empire, Rotary Club of Savannah, and the Chatham Educational Alliance. Thank you so much. The Georgia Leadership Institute for School Improvement is shining a light on educators who have made a difference in the lives of their students and communities through a Hidden Heroes campaign. Our very own Megan Humphrey, an academic coach at Mercer Middle School, has been nominated for this special recognition. Her nominator states, "She embodies the essence of a teacher leader, someone who not only imparts knowledge but also empowers others to rebuild and refine their skills. Just a masterful craftsman perfects their trade." Voting ended on November 27th. We wish the nominee, Megan Humphrey, the best of luck, and we appreciate her contributions at Mercer Middle School. We have two district finalists for the Junior American Traditions Finals. The American Traditions Vocal Collection celebrates and preserves all styles of classical American music. The Junior ATC is a major educational outreach initiative of the American Traditions Vocal Collection. Tyrone Ford Everett and Abby D'Aguilo, both from Savannah Arts Academy, took first and third place honors respectively. Congratulations. And we would also like to recognize and applaud Myers Middle School leadership and staff and students. The school has recently been recognized by the Georgia Association of Secondary School Principals as a 2023 Breakout School winner. The award is designed to identify, recognize, and showcase Georgia middle schools that are high achieving or dramatically improving student achievement. Congratulations to the team at Myers. Here to accept a certificate of appreciation is Principal Scott. I'd like to invite him to the horseshoe. And we have a certificate of recognition, and we'd like for our board members to extend their individual congratulations as well.
Congratulations to all of y'all. Well deserved. Good to see you. Congratulations. Nice work. Off the pig.
Our final acknowledgement and celebration today goes for this individual. The Georgia Department of Education has released 22-23 list of distinguished and reward schools. The Distinguished Schools designation recognizes the highest performing Title I schools in Georgia, while the Reward Schools designation recognizes Title I schools making the significant improvements. Congratulations to Pulaski Elementary principal, leadership, students, and staff, as well as Bloomingdale Elementary for being recognized as a Georgia Title I Reward School. Here to accept certificates are Bloomingdale Principal Benjamin Lom and Pulaski Principal Christina Tucker. Please make your way to the front to accept congratulations from the board. That concludes our good news acknowledgements and celebrations for this month. I would now like to turn the microphone over to Professional Senate, and they will give a report on the most recent meeting of our teacher leaders.
Good day. The Professional Senate met on Thursday, November 16th. Teachers are concerned there's not enough teachers in the district and it's hard to find substitute teachers. Suggestions is to offer retention bonuses and higher pay to substitute teachers. Close in the district, literacy and the new math curriculum. Teachers are very pleased. And Savannah Arts has a new auditorium. Our meeting was spent with Paige Cooley, the Director of Finance, and she presented to the teachers how the budget for next year is created, and a survey asking for our input was presented. And then we adjourned at 5:15. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Board matters. Board of Education matters. First of all, we have board policy, student discipline. Mr. Hattiger.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Board President. As we move along on your agenda, item 6.01. A mid-year review of this particular policy language, which is Board Policy JD, Student Discipline. Part of the reason that it's coming to the board as a mid-period review is we did notice there were some policy language as we were going through the manual in normal course of action, and noted that there are areas in there that could be better aligned to the actual language and procedures in the Student Code of Conduct. You'll also see in here that there is a thoughtful component that has been strengthened and updated to capture the district's actual procedures and processes under the designated felon process. And what we really want to do in there is make very clear what steps are taken when that is a condition that is being worked through. The key language that you'll see is the addition of qualifying designated felon status for students and how we manage through that process, and of course maintaining the due process as we work through it in there. So all of these things are really, in some ways, are cleanup language to atone for matching of what we have in our code of conduct, but this was a particular area we felt needed to be strengthened and codified and clarified.
Thank you. Is this a first reading or?
Yeah, thank you for that. This particular one there's no changes to the policy here. However, we did recognize in this procedure when we were going through the manual that while the policy itself is not subject to the 4-year review, the review date of the policy was not in line with the review date of the regulation. And that is something that is symptomatic of a few years ago before we started doing the board-related and board agenda-related 4-year review process, that some of the regulations and the policies were not in line with when they were looked at. So we want to get that fixed. So you'll see here that we are bringing the policy forward as well, with only recommended changes to the regulation. In doing that, we would like to suffice that the review process has been conducted as well for the policy, and if hearing no changes to that language, that both the regulation and policy will have been reviewed on this date so we can get that cleaned up in the policy manual.
Okay. Ms. Hoskins-Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I just have a question about the presence of regulations and policies. It looks like we've had a number, this is not one, but we've had a number of regulations that are being eliminated in their entirety, and the policy is meant to handle the matter. And then we have others like these where we are retaining the policy and the regulation. Can you tell us the thinking behind that? I'm so used to there always being a policy and a reg that it makes me a little nervous that there's not the regulation on the operational side to have people know how a topic would be handled. So is there a strategic process behind that you can share with me?
Sure, and I'll be happy to have our colleagues weigh in from the legal team and the auditing side of the house as well if I miss anything. But for clarification on this particular review, we're not recommending a deletion of the regulation. They're just changes to the regulation here. So that remains in standing as is. There's no changes to the policy. In a situation where you would see us deleting a regulation, typically that eyeglass would say there is enough policy language that is clearly stipulated, and there are state code requirements under statute that really provide that guidelines for clear administration of that policy, and that we believe that in better ways that could be managed through an administrative document. Sometimes there is an administrative document that already exists that employees are using, and that sometimes can create a little bit of confusion when we want to clean that up. So we have had policies come through where we have taken away the regulation, but in the policy we've made references to an administrative document that would manage that. And in those situations, you may see where you've got the guidelines of how the particular set of policy rules is to be followed. Then you have the flexibility of the administration of that, which in some cases there may need to be some changes or some flexibility that would continually have us bringing back changes to a regulation which are outside of the purview of a 4-year review. Depending on what that language set might be, it is more efficient and more functional to manage that through an existing employee code manual, for example. Some of those and most of those that you've seen recently have been under the HR side. For example, leaves and absences was one that we just went through at the last board meeting under GARH. We've got a little bit more work to do on that. In fact, that was one of the deletions that we're going to bring back in January for the board's review on that process. The other one was in finance, when you're talking about coming back for getting paid for a reimbursement. That is managed through a document that finance owns. So we thought that in some cases either the regulation wasn't extensive enough and it was already being managed in the manual side, or vice versa. So it really ends up being a case-by-case scenario, and it is really built on what are the current practices, how are we managing that, and is it a more effective solution?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that there was no place where an employee had absolutely no guidance beyond the policy. So I'm glad to hear that you're just getting rid of redundancy, not completely eliminating guidance.
That is definitely the goal, and I will work with the team that in those situations where we are in policy language on the regulation side, suggesting a deletion for the reasons stated, that on the policy, we specifically reference that it will be administered through an administrative document. And that way, there could be no guess as to where is the management side of how this policy is administered.
Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, so again, this was just regulation changes only, and hearing that there are no recommendations for changes to the policy language on JD, we would like to attest that the review has also been done in accordance with Board Policy BDE. Moving along in your agenda, item 6.02. This is policy DJE. This is a first reader. This will come back for the board's subsequent adoption at the January 10th board meeting. District administration has gone through the purchasing policy rather extensively, and also you'll see that this is changes under a mid-year review, noting specifically that there are certain areas of policy under purchasing that really needed some additional clarifications on language. So that was the approach here primarily. You'll see that there was an extensive part of the recommendation for changes that provided additional language to specifically define what a sole source is, and also specifically define procedures and definitions of the usage of professional services in the purchasing process. First reader for the board's review.
Ms. Grabowski.
Thank you for this. I think, as we discussed in our finance committee last week, there are lots of policies that address procurement, and I would love for us through that committee to be able to look at those at some point in the future. However, I understand the need for some of the changes that are proposed today. I did have a few questions that I submitted to staff, so I'll go over those now. Within the exceptions for the P cards, are the limits and regulations related to the use of those outlined in another policy as far as dollar amounts for the purchasing cards?
Excuse me, they're not outlined in a policy per se. We have a purchasing card manual that we give staff, but they're not outlined in policy.
Okay, but the manual has all of the
Yes,
rules
ma'am.
and procedures of
It has procedures and limits and
utilization.
everything.
Okay. And under number 5, under exceptions, the provision to allow for the continuation of an existing contract, is there a performance review that's associated with a recommendation to come forward to continue an existing contract?
Yes, ma'am. There's a review that's pretty much similar to as if it's a new contract.
Okay.
It goes through the same process.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question I had about, or actually 2 more, under the professional services, appreciate the clarification that's been added there. I certainly understand the value of that and having the ability for the superintendent to direct contract for some of those professional services under a certain dollar amount for efficiency. I was curious about where the dollar amount came from that's proposed as a part of the policy for the professional services to be able to direct contract for those.
We took a look at basically school districts that are our size, pretty much the Metro Atlanta districts, and we pretty much mimic what they were doing as far as their policy limit.
Okay. It may be helpful to just have some way to be able to communicate that. Maybe there's a dollar amount in between to be able to communicate that to the board so we can make sure that there's awareness and transparency around those transactions without limiting the superintendent's ability to be able to move forward on those contracts. I think that could be helpful if my board members agree. And then the final question I had, under our RFPs, are we obligated by state law to accept the lowest purchase price? I'm sorry, under the invitation to bid.
Obligated? No, ma'am. We can accept other officers if there are circumstances that may present themselves during the process that we could choose another vendor and not the lowest price.
Because I believe right now, the way that the language is worded, we are obligated to accept the lower bid. And in instances where there's a superior product that may have a longer lifespan, a better warranty, whatever the case may be, but a higher initial purchase price, I think it's important that we also take into consideration. So I would prefer that we not obligate ourselves to always accept lowest bid.
If I can add just a comment, what the policy and what the state requirements allow you to give you the option to do is refer to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So oftentimes there's other criteria in addition, as long as it meets the requirements of being the lowest bidder. It may have something to do with their previous history, based on, as you stated, some other criteria, but it's generally referred to as being the lowest responsive and responsible, which gives you some flexibility.
It does, I mean, you could, yes, on the purchase, it's page 7, number 3, under item, or under general. So number 4, item 3. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Number 4, general, item 3, invitation to bid. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So a bid could still be responsible and be the lowest. There could be criteria that make another bidder with a higher purchase price superior because of warranty, maintenance.
Yeah, and that's why you have several different models to select from. You can either do an invitation to bid, a request for proposal, which gives you that flexibility to evaluate on criteria in addition to the cost. But that bid is based on dollar amount. When you're looking at a request for proposal, you have established criteria
Right,
going
understand.
into the solicitation, which
Right.
gives you the flexibility to evaluate based on that criteria you established at the front
I'm
end.
looking more specifically at the invitation to bid.
And that's why it's called an invitation to bid. It's based on the dollar value, the amount. So that's why when you're looking at your decision to which model you're going to use, you make that determining factor on the front end.
Okay, Mr. Kachmar?
I was just going to say, the rest of that sentence says, as defined by the bidding documents and determined by the district. And we have, in fact, not awarded contracts to the lowest bidder because of other concerns related to warranty, related to past performance. And then we've gone to the next level, and we're 2 or otherwise tied. So we haven't gone just on price before, it's the whole package. We've actually done that. It's not just in the language.
Okay, well, I appreciate that historical reference and knowledge. I just know that, you know, if it's shopping for the lowest price, that's not necessarily at our best interest. So glad that that is the practice and what's in our policy. Thank you for the clarification.
Anyone else? Okay, continue.
Okay, of course, that is a first reader. We'll come back for a second read adoption January 10th. Moving on your agenda, item 6.03. This is policy GAGC, employee ethics. This is a new policy that is being proposed for the board's review and subsequent approval. One of the reasons that you're seeing this in front of you is as we've gone through the policy review process and in areas where we're focused on improving efficiencies and ensuring that we're operating at an optimal status through the work that our employees are doing, that we do have other policy sections that require this high level of professional operation. For example, teachers under the Professional Standards Commission, the board even signs its own code of ethics and things of that nature. This is designed to be a blanket for all employees, and you'll see that it's written that way. And it does give a nod to some of those other conditions that other groups of employees adhere to as a model for that. And the other part that's important that you'll note in this language that is new is as we've done our research on it, thought it was valuable in here, is a requirement and expectation of reporting if you see fraud or waste or a suspicion of a violation of code of ethics, then that's memorialized in this policy as well. That's something we saw in our review of some other school districts where they had similar model language like this, that component was a big part of this policy section. So this is a new policy for the board's review, first reader.
Dr. Brinkman.
I would just, in the third paragraph, second word, I would like to debate should report. Yeah, I should report it, doesn't mean I have to. This policy doesn't make me report the fraud. So I don't know if we're legally allowed, you know, as I always say, it might be illegal to say that you must, but I would think that it should say must report or shall, if you want to keep yeah, I just, should to me means, yeah. As an employee, I would look at this and be like, well, I should have done it, but I didn't have to because it's not a binding word. So that'd be my only edit. I see the lawyers ready to talk.
Hey, Ms. Grabowski.
Well, I would share your feedback, and perhaps there's a way to, in the first sentence, we say all employees are expected to, perhaps there's a way to reflect it, because I don't know if we can do the shall, but if we can't do the shall, then the expectation is that it would be reported.
I see Mr. Dennison like leaning over.
Yeah, we can certainly look at whether that word should be replaced. I think we really want to make it clear that employees are protected in the whistleblower process as opposed to getting in trouble because of the whistleblowing process. So I think that was the basis for going with that particular choice of the word, because we want to encourage people to say, yeah, this is something that's there for you and you have a right to do it, as opposed to you better do it or else. But I think it is important that it's reported. So we'll take a look at that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Hoskins-Brown.
Thank you, but it probably should be or else, because failure to report fraud that results in substantial loss to the district, there should be a consequence for that. So if you see someone who is doing something that they should not be doing, and there's not a penalty for not blowing a whistle on it, then that kind of defeats some of our protective mechanisms. So I think maybe what we need to do is amplify the fact that there are whistleblower protections. You know, you are expected to report, and consequently, such reports are governed by these whistleblower laws. And maybe that'll look more like carrot than stick for people who are reading that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, taking the board's feedback on that particular policy item, we'll work more on that and bring it back for second read January 10th. 6.04 is your next item on this agenda. This is a mid-year review. This also is in the theme of what we've been talking about here with ethics. You'll see this one is the ethics for government service, which has been a part of the board's policy manual. Just minor changes on here, some grammatical and word choice changes are recommended to the board, and this is a first read.
Any questions?
Hearing none, moving on your agenda, we will have board policy GAG. This is the staff conflict of interest policy. We do not have any policy changes here. This is for regulation only, and thus we're bringing it to the board for the board's review. You will note that, again, you're seeing a theme here in HR-related policies that we're bringing to the board that have been bundled here in this group. The main change to call out here in the regulation side is a requirement for employees to annually a firm understanding of the board's conflict of interest policy. This has been an area of focus recently, and we felt that this opportunity to bring this in front of the board is where we would include that as a requirement, because the way it's currently written is when you're hired with a district, that's when you do it, and that's it. So we are changing this to an annual requirement. Regulation only for board's review, no policy changes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I have one question. I forgot. Sorry that I did not ask this previously. Why the change in the percentage of if an employee serves as a director or officer of a firm? It looks like from 5% to 1%.
think at the time, when we looked at this, the last time it was revised, I want to say was in the early 2000s, 5% of the amount of, let's say, $100,000 back then, we have $1 million contracts now. So we didn't want the threshold to be so high that somebody would be able to do something for $200,000 or $300,000 and not have to report it. It's a lower threshold to report now that we have $1 million contracts and whatever. That's kind of the reason why we changed from the 5% to the 1%.
All right, thank you. Okay. Dr. Hoskins-Brown?
Thank you. That was one of my two questions, so I'll go to my other question. On the next page under E, resource persons, it says, questions regarding this policy or its application should be directed to the Chief Human Resources Officer or to the Senior Director of Internal Audit. Who has the final authority over whether it's a conflict of interest?
I think it's a good question. I mean, I think the way we're looking at that, the way Leah and I thought about it was they would come to one of us and we always would communicate about this. But if we need to have it just be one of us, that was our thought. Sometimes people don't want to come to human resource. Sometimes they want to go to internal audit, and internal audit needs their own independency to be able to do some things without necessarily having to come back to HR. So that's the reason why we had it written that way, but we certainly could go back if the board feels like that's a concern.
I don't want to take away employees' access to expertise. My thought is that if I have something that might be a conflict of interest and I really want to do it, I may just shop around until I find the person that tells me that it's not a conflict. So I think there ought to be a mechanism in the policy that maybe you two have to come to consensus if there's a difference in opinion, or just to make sure that someone's not going to mom and saying, can I do it? And then dad, yes, you can. And then you have a problem about an ethical situation. As long as there's some mechanism for consensus or a hierarchy of approval, so we don't have someone who may try to work in the gray area that's not in the best interest of the district.
Understood.
Moving on. Okay, once again, that was a regulation review, so we'll take that feedback into account and look for updates to the regulation language prior to moving forward. We do have next item on the board's agenda is item 6.06. This is an action item for the Board of Education. Annually, the Board of Education approves its regular meetings schedule for the subsequent calendar year. This is something that was traditionally done in January. We're not sure why that was. In December, we traditionally would announce the January meeting and then approve the full calendar year in January. So we thought it would make sense for this to be done in December when we're announcing the January meeting. So you'll see January 10th is proposed for the first meeting of the 2024 year. One minor change in this particular approach is that the dates that you'll see in here for the adoption of the annual budget are not included in this calendar of meetings. During the Finance Committee meeting recently, there was a lot of discussion about the process for the adoption of the budget and the budget calendar. So we would need to come back to the board and establish those dates through that process. However, that does not change the requirement for open meetings law that we all must adhere to when we are having a quorum of the board. So those particular meetings, as we all recall, you'll be meetings for hearings on the millage rate. You'll also be needing a hearing for the subsequent final adoption of the budget. We will bring those back to the board in a separate document that is timed contingent with the work of the Finance Committee. So with that, we do have this as an action item of the board. We'll also note that traditionally on this agenda rundown for the meeting dates, they fall traditionally on the first Wednesday of every month, subject to certain calendar components of the academic calendar or holiday breaks that may be going on throughout the year. And we also had traditionally had one evening meeting in September. This one represents two evening meetings. One would be in the spring during the March meeting, and then the September meeting would hold as the other evening meeting of the board. So knowing that this information has previously been presented to the board with those caveats that I have stipulated, we now have an action item for the board, and thus be it resolved that the 2024 calendar of Board of Education meetings be adopted.
Okay. I will, sorry. Okay, who moved?
I did.
Oh, Ms. Hall moved, and Dr. Hoskins Brown second. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I do appreciate adding another night meeting. We had a lot of people show up to the last one, and I think it works well, especially for those working families that we have out in the county.
Thank you. And I am going to reiterate, we did add another evening meeting, and there may be a wager with one of my board members whether people will show up, and I would like to win that wager. So please, 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 please show up for our 6 o'clock meeting and all of our meetings. I mean, again, it's so wonderful to see you all here today. This is how it works. But yes, so come to our 6 o'clock meetings, please. There is a dinner on the line, so.
The pink house.
All right, any other discussion? There being no other discussion, all in favor? Raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Next on your agenda, item 6.07. This is a recommendation for charter contract renewal. Mr. Feliciano to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Hediger. On the table is the Susie King Taylor Community School 5-year renewal of their existing charter contract. The Susie King Taylor Community School has served the students of Savannah-Chatham County for over 6 years and is currently in its final school year of its existing contract. Susie King Taylor opened its doors to families on July 1st of 2017. In the summer of 2021, Susie King Taylor submitted their first 5-year renewal application. The Charter Renewal Committee reviewed the application and concluded it did not support the 5-year renewal due to insufficient performance data and the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. An agreement was reached between Susie King Taylor Community School, the local Board of Education, and the State Board of Education to provide Susie King Taylor with a 2-year period extension ending on June 30th of 2024. The Charter Review Committee is now reviewing a submitted petition by the Susie King Taylor Charter School to renew their application. At that time, it was determined that the application demonstrated moderate quality and compliance, but required additional clarification and supplemental information before a recommendation could be made. Throughout the renewal process, the administration collaborated with the charter petitioners and sought guidance from the State Department of Education. Susie King Taylor presented the requested information to the renewal committee and submitted an addendum on October 10, 2023 for final consideration. The renewal committee met and considered the following factors to help determine the renewal decisions for supporting the charter renewal. Before I enter that, I want to inform the board that we have experienced this in the past before. Specifically in 2017, the Savannah Classical Academy was placed on a probationary status based on the charter school's academic and organizational performance. In addition to the performance-based goals, the charter violated federal and state laws, specifically failing to comply with TICAS and LICAS requirements, those are the evaluation instruments required by law, failure to maintain and implement a written student discipline policy that is considered with due process, consistent with due process, failing to ensure that the requirements of the IDEA, which is the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, were being met. And in failure to respond to the State Department's request for additional information and public records in a timely manner. Based on these factors, Savannah Classical Academy was placed on a probation. The administration worked with the State Department of Education to monitor and provide oversight of the Savannah Classical Academy. Going back to Susie King Taylor Community School, the factors that were taken into consideration were the Cognia accreditation that they achieved, the change in school leadership, the alignment of the curriculum with the Georgia Standards of Excellence, the implementation of standards-based classroom and a plan of support, collaboration with the district and the Georgia Department of Education School Improvement Department, the removal from the TSI designated list as the targeted support and improvement list, the adjustments to the instructional schedule to accommodate teacher needs, the strategies implemented to improve student attendance, strong parent support for the charter school, and the implementation of students' social emotional learning and restorative practices. The committee did express concerns regarding Susie King Taylor Charter School's academic performance as outlined in the original contract and the 2-year extension. To address these concerns, the Charter Renewal Committee recommends the following conditions for charter renewal. These conditions are also included in the contract conditions addendum. Number 1, maintain a school improvement plan and plan of support for each school year of the contract term. Number 2, create and maintain an interim progress monitoring to ensure Godot performance contract requirements are met with a focus on the alignment of teaching and learning with the Georgia Standards of Excellence. Number 3, ensure board governance compliance by maintaining all required Godot certification, completing annual training requirements for all board members, and ensuring full compliance with state open meeting laws and transparency of open governance documentation. Number 4, ensure operational compliance by working with the district on school safety plan and completing required safety drills. And number 5, Susie King Taylor shall provide evidence of meeting the required conditions in an annual presentation to the local school board, including an update on its school improvement plan. In addition to the listed conditions, the charter petitioners requested an enrollment increase to 408 students. The administration moved forward with the original contract enrollment amount of 336. The administration feels that the charter school needs to address the academic performance deficiencies first, and then they can approach the board to request an increase in enrollment. The administration supports the approval of the 5-year renewal with the above stated conditions. Governing board and Susie King Taylor Community School has approved the required conditions, and the agreement has been reviewed by the superintendent and board attorney. Susie King Taylor Community School renewal application was previously provided to the school board, and it is posted in its entire packet on board docs for reference. Board action at this time is required. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approves the charter renewal with the conditions stated above for the Susie King Taylor Community Schools effective July 1, 2024 for a period of 5 years concluding on June 30th, 2029.
Mr. Katchmar. Discussion. I have a question. No, for you. Okay, so this is so we're voting to give them a 5-year charter.
Yes, sir. With
However,
conditions.
those conditions. So any year that those conditions are not met, what happens?
If they're not met, they will move into a probationary status.
Okay. Right. Mr. Kashmir.
Yeah, so there have been ongoing concerns with Susie King Taylor. They've been through a lot of staff. There's been high turnover. But it's not unusual with charters. They're trying to figure out who we are, what we are, and how we do things. It's been a roller coaster. There have been some ups and downs, but I've seen some steady progress in recent years. We went through this with Classical. They had lots of problems, went through probation before they kind of figured things out. And I was really, what was compelling to me was the high family and parental satisfaction. They enjoy their community. And my position with charters and choice programs has always been the more choices we give families to find the niche that works for them and their children, the better. And even if it doesn't meet the objective, it's not at the top of the pile for objective, explicit numbers that some governing bodies and people judge schools by. That's not all a school is. It's not just being the #1 school in reading or math or whatever. And even there, though, with academic outcomes, the school has shown progress. The school has shown commitment to moving forward. So I've seen that commitment to progress. I see how much the community loves the school, and so I'm willing to support this charter renewal with the conditions that are in place so that we're providing the guardrails we're supposed to provide as a district.
Ms. Hall and then Dr. Brinkman.
Yes, very quickly, those were my comments to the superintendent, that I felt if the parents and the families are happy with their situation and we have done what we need to do to protect the instructional integrity that we owe those children, then I too am willing to give them a chance to fully come into their own and correct the problems that seem to be impacting them. Parents would not stay if things were at a point, I think, where they didn't deserve a chance. They would just walk away as they could. So I'm going to support the situation with the understandings of what you said.
Dr. Brinkman.
First, like to echo my fellow board members' comments, but also would just like to thank the district, but also the administration at Susie King Taylor for coming together and working on this. It is a relationship. It will continue to be a relationship, and it will continue to take work. So coming alongside each other is what we need to do. It's what we try to teach our students. So if we can't emulate that, bad on us. So thank you for the time and effort that it took for both parties to get to this place.
Mr. Johnson.
I appreciate all the work that's been done on this charter renewal. I appreciate all the efforts that Susie King Taylor has been able to do. However, 2 years ago, I know it's not the same leadership, but I told them that there was a one get out of jail free card. That if the numbers did not improve, then I could not support a renewal. We gave them 2 years to try to improve it, and some numbers have gone up, some have gone down. And I know it's been, rough for these past 2 years. However, that was with every school within Chatham County. And, I'm probably one of the most pro charters up here. My own son goes to a charter school. I understand the support, and I understand the school community. Even when Savannah Classical was having all their issues, their families and their students and their teachers, they rallied around them as well. So in order to be consistent and stick with my word, I mean, with some of these numbers, when you have for the school year 22-23, when you have your 3rd through 5th graders at 45% of a level 2 or higher on GMAS, that's a big issue in my opinion. When it was the year before, you were at 63%. Those are the vital years in order to make sure that they can move on to those 6th and 8th grade years and on to high school and to graduate high school. You also look at some of the stuff with attendance. Attendance is still in the missing a certain amount of days. I think it was like 10 or 15 days, where 15 days or more. For the 21-22 school year, there was at almost 13%. There's still a lot of issues. We gave a 2-year extension on the original contract, so unfortunately, I cannot support renewing at this time.
Dr. Huskins-Brown?
Thank you. I echo my colleagues who lauded your hard work and the success that you're experiencing. I think that there are lots of opportunities for partnership and growth with what you're doing at Susie King Taylor. So I hope that you continue to reach out for that support and partnership. And I understand the challenges that happen with leadership turnover and some of the things that you've been facing. So, great job on your effort. Hopeful encouragement coming from me on what you're going to be doing forward. So don't take my question as a lack of faith. I'm just looking at the charter application and had this question and reading it. So this is for our staff or for our attorneys. On page 15 on the charter, it says that if it happened to be that the school would close, so not wishing that for you, but if the school were to close, it says that the governing board is responsible for concluding the business of the closing school. It says that the assets come to the local board, but it says the local board nor the governing board is responsible for any of the debts of the school, which if you're a school that has built a building or something, that's a lot of debt. Like, where does that debt go? It just goes away?
I'll let our in-house attorney answer that question.
Because I'm like, whatever they do, I want to learn that magic formula that can make all
the charter is going to is its own legal entity, so it's its own nonprofit. So ultimately, any arrangement it's going to reach, it may have to get backed by others. It might, how they finance it, you'd have to talk to the charters in particular, but they are an entity that's able to taking on debt, and how you make a lender happy with that particular form is really up to the lender.
So the governing board is separate from the charter?
The board is there's a organization, there's a nonprofit organization that has to be formed that's separate from the district.
Okay.
In the case of a local charter school.
So they own it.
So that's a separate entity from us.
Thank you. Okay, no magic debt go away pill. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, as mentioned before, parent engagement and community engagement is really essential. We know that your school, Susan K., they've had, issues regarding stability as it pertains to leadership. We do understand that it was also designated as the TSI, and then it moved on to CSI. However, with stability and leadership, we do have expectations that there can be improvement. It's very difficult to show improvement when there's instability in your leadership. That drives the data. So I am in agreement with this extension, and we really will be working with you all. And please continue to engage your parents, engage the community, as well as take a thorough dive into the data. Because because we do understand that not only on the local level, but also the state and federal level, and federally, you're in the CSI designation, so we're really hoping that you can move forward to be cleared of those designations.
Anyone else? This is a hard one for me. Everyone knows that I'm the biggest charter proponent you'll ever meet. On the other hand, I'm also the biggest proponent for accountability. What is swaying me is what Sean said. You know, you have a lot of parents that are very pro your school. But I will tell you, and I will vote for this, but I will tell you this, there is accountability. And we will be holding you to those yearly requirements. Get a hold on your leadership. Get a hold on your academics. Get a hold on your federal programs. You know, we all want you to succeed. But what we're doing today has some consequences for us. Because if we ever have any of our other charter schools in this situation, I don't want them to point to us and say, well, you did it for them. Why won't you do it for us? I understand that Judge Huffman wanted to make a statement, so come on. Here? Yeah.
It's not often I get to come during the middle of the day, so thank you for having us at 2 o'clock. I could skip out on other obligations. I appreciate the 6 p.m. meetings that you're going to hold. It's important to have accessibility to the information, not just the information. Thank you for your consideration of Susie King Taylor's Community Schools charter renewal application. I'm Joe Huffman. I'm the clerk or chair of the governing board of the school. We put a lot of work, effort, thought, and love into the school, into the process, into the application. Your consideration for renewal is appreciated. 2 years ago, your consideration for an extension, to be very abundantly clear, for a lack of information to make the decision, not because of failing information to make that decision, is appreciated. COVID brought to our school as well to this district many difficulties. Some news came out, iReady scores, proficiency in math from lower school improved 30%, 59 and 76% proficiency middle school, double digits. Reading lower school, double digits improvement middle school, double digit improvements, all of which Dr. Medina will tell you next month at her presentation. Don't get bogged down too much in attendance when attendance numbers dropped following a reintroduction from COVID and the loss of transportation for our school. To expect anything but an increase in absences would be nonsensical. We're dealing with that. We've been dealing with that. We appreciate the consideration. We have made strident efforts. Some separation. With all due respect, we're not the same as Savannah Class School a couple years ago. We didn't have those same issues, financially, governance. We struggled with academics as we continue to work on. The one thing that we have been and will continue to be is open to advisement, cooperation, feedback. At no point have we ever shunned anything provided to us from the district. If anything, we've always been welcoming from all information. There was a discrepancy, and in no way am I trying to be adversarial at all. We are so appreciative of the care and concern that you've taken to reflect on our petition. We need 408 as a barometer. It wouldn't be next year, it would be the year after. Ultimately, climate leads to education. In proper climate, you cannot achieve that education. You want to give yourself options later in life. Right? With the improper climate, you cannot have those opportunities. We cannot have an opportunity for a better climate unless we have an opportunity for additional funds that go with a higher enrollment. Well, we can't have higher enrollment if we don't have a better facility. Well, we can't have a better facility if we don't have higher enrollment. We can't have higher enrollment until we have a better facility. It's a vicious circle. We act with intention, not in a broom closet, but with the help of experts, financially, academically, facilities. The governing board consists of members of the community who all do different things. We have educators, individuals, law enforcement, legal professions. We have individuals in building construction, engineers. We come to this school with a purpose to act in the best interest of our children. We believe our petition asking for what we've asked is in that mindset of the best interest. We cannot be successful without the district, period. Without your assistance, Susie King Taylor, as much as we love these students in the school, cannot be successful. But we can be successful if given the opportunity to continue to cooperate with your requests. We will never run and hide from answers. Dr. Medina comes here monthly? Almost. Ask a question, we'll have an answer. Even if the answer is not something we want to say, we'll say it. There's no fear of what it is to be said. We embrace the challenge. Accountability is only a word that is embraced by the members of the Susie King Taylor Community School, period. When it comes to turnover of staff, respectfully, when teachers are under contract with us and yet then hired by the district, that creates an issue for us sometimes. But we have to overcome that, just like we did this year. Our attendance is high because students love our school. Our education can be provided with a better climate, requires additional students. With transportation and addressing those kinds of needs, we can help deal with enrollment. We're not perfect in our execution every day, but we're perfect in our love and our care for these students and these children. And I cannot thank you enough for letting me speak to you right now. I cannot thank you enough for your consideration. This was not an easy thing to read, I know, because we wrote it. But I'm welcome to answer any of your questions you may have at this time.
Anyone? Okay.
Again, I would just like to echo thanks, because I know you serve on their board and you have other board members, and it is a very difficult job. So thank you. I'm sure that the teachers at the school thank you. So take that thanks back to your board as well, because it is a lot of work.
To echo your sentiment, we just had some family nights for food, dinners, Christmas and Thanksgiving. We're having 60 to 70% involvement and participation with the parents. The overwhelming involvement with our parents. And look, I'm a product of a charter school. I went to Savannah-Arts Academy the first year it opened up. It is a community school. And when you walk into the buildings, you feel community. There's an opportunity to have a better building, which can be acquired with more students, or we're happy to take a building off your hands. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Okay, with no other comments or questions, let's call the vote. All in favor of the contract renewal for Susie King Taylor Community School with the conditions, raise your hand. That is 8. All opposed? 1. Congratulations. By the way, what are you serving at those dinners?
Spaghetti, the next one.
Spaghetti? Okay, I'll be there. We're going. Okay. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? It's been moved by Ms. Grabowski, seconded by Dr. Bringman. Any discussion? Good. All in favor? Oh, but Tanya's over there. Good. 9-0. Thank you. Okay. No, okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Jackson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Who, by the way, just received an award.
Yes, for our accounting department received an award for their CAFR, the 2022 AFR. I keep calling it CAFR, but their financial document. But I do applaud them and thank them for all of their efforts. We have a budget amendment in front of you. The Georgia Department of Education has awarded Chatham County $720,000 for fiscal year 2024 Georgia Leads grant. Our district was chosen as a Georgia Leads pilot for teachers. The following 6 schools were chosen for the pilot: Woodville-Tompkins High, New Hampstead High, Savannah Classical Academy, Charter, West Chatham Middle, New Hampstead K-8, and Bloomingdale Elementary. Georgia Leads is designed to be a teacher evaluation system that values and evaluates educators instead of devaluing them, with the goal of supporting student success. It will provide clear, personalized paths with supports, expectations, and opportunities every step of the way for teachers to grow as professionals, from beginning teacher to teacher leader. The Georgia Leadership and Educator Acceleration and Development System, Georgia Leads, allows teachers to improve their craft, share strengths, and be recognized for contributions to the profession and impact. The Division of Finance requests the board approve the budget for the grant funds to match the New Year's grant for both expenditures and revenue. The grant adjustment of $720,000 is below. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget amendment of $720,000 for the FY24 Georgia Leads grant.
Correct. Moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Dr. Hoskins-Brown. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Grabowski.
I'm thrilled that we're part of this pilot, and even though and I appreciate the description that's included in the agenda, I would love to hear just a quick sentence or two from someone on our academic team what this means for teachers. No disrespect, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
Maybe Ms. Paul Oliver.
So this provides an actual opportunity for our schools to be in on the ground floor and give feedback on Georgia's new instrument as it relates to evaluating teachers, so that we get to really be engaged in the process, give feedback, pilot, let them know what works, what does not work. And just knowing that these administrators actually all volunteered, asked to be a part of this pilot, and were selected based on the diversity of the schools, the student enrollment, and then making sure they did not have other obligations or programmatic designs that would make this burdensome for them.
Thank you. I just think it's really an exciting opportunity for our teachers and our leadership to be instrumental in this process.
Can I add something? Can I add something to that? I would also note that we are very important in this process because we're the largest school district. So because of what we have as far as our diverse pool of students and everything else, it's going to help it statewide. So we actually are very key for this working statewide because we have such a diverse population of students.
Right. Dr. Brinkman, then Mr. Johnson.
And I might be wrong. Somebody help my old brain. I believe this came to fruition because of one of our past teachers of the year and her work at the state level to help develop this, or no? I could have swore this was part of Teacher of the Year Dennis's work and knowing that this was coming, but I might be wrong.
I think they paralleled each other. Certainly she's a part of, the emphasis to getting the new system. So she was a part of that as she was Teacher of the Year of Georgia. So as this was happening, they were coinciding as she was Teacher of the Year of Georgia.
So again, thank you to our teachers. Thank you to our Teachers of the Year that take the voice of all of our teachers forward to better education for all of Georgia.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I really am glad to see so many schools from District 7 on here. But yeah, that's what can I say. But I also am glad to see that we're including a charter school on this. I think that's a fantastic way to reach out to the charters and learn, also get their perspective on things as well.
Anyone else? Okay, there being no more discussion, all in favor? 9-0. Thank you very much. Continuing.
And next we have the financials I'm going to share the spotlight and ask my Assistant CFO, Rosalind Nathaniel, to come forward and do the financials for you. I really think it's only fitting because she's the person that actually puts it all together. So I'm going to let her have this from now on.
I don't know whether he's letting me have it or whether I'm being pushed. Okay. And then he left without telling me how to work the equipment. Good afternoon, everyone. The financials in front of you are our financials for the first 4 months of this school year, so it's taking you through October 31st. Here in front of you, we have Fund 100, our general funds. And that's where the bulk of our money comes from, other than all of our grants. Our fund balance, the revenue for this month's year to date, so our local property taxes, we're at almost 26% of budget, which is higher than this same time last year. Last year, we were at 17%. The total actual revenues for this year to date compared to budget, we're almost at 28% compared to 18% last year. So we're doing pretty good on our revenue. For our expenditures, we're at about 25% of the budget so far this year, which is where we expect it to be. If we look at our cash and investments, our cash balances at this point, we're pretty stable. In years past, this time of the year, we were kind of concerned, running low on cash, and when we would have to either ask the county to give us some of our cash collections a little bit early, or do a tax loan to help get us through the next couple of months, because our second installment on our local taxes, we're expecting this month. So, but we're happy to report for the past 5 years, we have not had to do that. So we're in pretty stable position financially as far as cash goes also. You do not see on your financials a change in our general fund balance at this point. We are finishing up our annual audit this month. Our goal is to be able to share that number for you and with you with our next month's financials. As far as our other grants go, a lot of our federal fund grants ended September 30th, some on October 31st. The team has spent the past 30 days finishing up all of the grants from last year and finishing the completion reports. And I think you may have seen some of the new numbers coming in. So we have nothing substantial to report on those grants at this point. Everything is going smoothly on those also. So at this point, financially, we're in pretty good shape. I take any questions that you may have.
Mr. Brennan, Dr. Brennan. It's fine. I just wanted to say thank you. 5 years ago, I think was that a January or February vote, Tanya? I remember meeting. I was like, right away, this is jumping in feet first. We're having to take out a TAN, and Larry's having to teach me what a TAN is, and I'm just making sure that teachers didn't get paid. So those are real early on, like baptism by fire, and it's nice to know that is in the distant past, and I believe that we have really gotten to a point fiscally that isn't going to happen again. So thank you so much for the work that y'all have done to make sure that isn't something we need to discuss.
Ms. Hall.
I have a question. The gift we received from Parker's, the $100,000, do we divide that up and it goes directly to our schools, or where does that go?
The funds, when they were donated to us from the Parker's Foundation, they gave us a list of schools and the amounts of monies that they were sharing with the schools. So when we got the donation from them, they gave us the directives of where the money was to be shared.
Can that be shared with the board? I'd like to know.
Yes.
It's all, actually, the stipulation of the monies for a particular school is determined by the consumer when they're at the pump. So when they are pumping that gas, they have the ability to pick which school the 1 cent Wednesdays go to. Highest receiver in this recent donation was Godly Station.
It's a lot of gas.
Pardon? There were several schools, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just a quick question. Do you know by chance what is it or what was it that got us in a bad condition in the past so that we can make sure we avoid those things for the future?
It was the timing, just the way that the county collects our taxes. We get the first large collection of the taxes is usually during the month of May. And then the second one is in December. So typically it was between September, October that was kind of a crunch time for us. It was just the cash flow timing with the county.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Next. Here we go. East Blast. Update.
Good afternoon. This is always a good opportunity for us to be able to come and share with you the exciting work that's ongoing in our East Blush program, how we are continuing our work relative to construction, if I can get it where I need to be able to show it. Bear with me a second. There it is. That's how I wanted to be able to present it. So we always welcome the opportunity to come in and talk about East Blush because we recognize how important it is for us to be able to support the instructional process. That's exactly what we do by making sure that the facilities are conducive for learning. We recognize that, we live by that, and we're one of those pedestals that hold up academics. And we traditionally, we have been limited by the number of slides that we can present, and we curtail don't clap back, because I'm telling you we're going back to where we used to be. I'm going to bring all of the slides out. I'm going to bring the 15 pages of the schedule out. I'm going to show you what's in pink, what's not in pink. I'm going to show you what's happening in maintenance and operations. We're going to go back to the way we used to be. So you all are going to be saying, can you cut it down? Can you go ahead and finish up? No, 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 no. And we do that because we want to make sure that we are providing all of the information that's necessary. Because East Blush is taxpayer and community driven. We want them to know where we are, how those dollars are being used, those allocations across the entire district. So we're going to ask you for your indulgence because I'd already told Bill when we loaded the presentation, we're going to be very quick. We're going to get through this. So now Bill has new directions that we're going to take our time. We're going to go through each project and make sure that our taxpayers who supported us with East Blush and our schools understand where we are in each of our projects. So I'm going to let Bill come on with his new directive.
Thank you, Ms. Kegler. Let me first, of course, I messed it up right off the bat. Let me draw your attention to our E3 budget sheet here. And what this is a cash flow project management plan. And quite frankly, this is one of the most important reports that you as a board can look at when you get this information from us. The green is the expenditure, the blue are the revenues. Obviously, expenditures and revenues have to match each other. We do have a program schedule, a very extensive program schedule that lays out every project and we have a budget for each project, so it's a matter of just putting our cash flow on that schedule. And this is kind of a recap of it. If you blew it up, it would be a very massive report. And as we go through the project, the program, we put in the actual costs that are experienced. And then, of course, we can update our future projections. So on E3, you look way over to the right, we're in 2023, well over halfway through. Everything to the left of that are all actual expenditures. Everything to the right is still our projections yet. You notice that in the blue area, the revenues, we're not showing any revenues in 2024. Of course, East Plus is over as far as the collections for East Plus 3, but as you see in 2023, we did have interest that was being earned, and we did have some capital outlay money that came in. Now, we'll continue to have that in 2024, but as we make our expenditures through 2024, of course, those numbers are going to significantly decrease. The majority of our expenditures in 2024 still lies in the K-12, the stadium work, and then we have some other smaller projects that we'll be able to wind down through 24. So again, what this report shows you, by looking at that zero down in the bottom there, that says that when East Blast 3 is over, we will have expended all the revenues, but we will not go over on budget. When we go to the E4 budget, same things apply with this one. However, of course, we're not as far along. Collections are occurring. Expenditures are occurring. Look at the yearly expenditure for 2023, very, very low. Revenues were very high, so we have a lot of money that we're going to be utilizing as we go through this. One important thing, and an important thing again that you can look at and you can assure, is that you do not see any situation where we are in negative. We always are in a positive. We always have more money that we have accumulated through revenue than what we are expending. And that's an important aspect of this report that you see again. So these cash flows assure you that you have a positive cash flow, and it also can assure you, in looking at E3 or 4, now this is a lot of projections still, but we're not planning any projects that are going to exceed our anticipated revenues. And then just one other quick note, as you may well know, and we get into this more detail, obviously, in CIC, revenues are exceeding the budget, and that also obviously helps with our cash flow. We can put more money into it, we can do more project work, and that's what this is resulting in. Looking at what our overall workload is in capital projects, we have if you take and look at that program schedule, we have 81 different projects that we have shown. And you can see the dollar amounts that are in the 4 areas: closeout, construction, design, build, and planning. You add that up, that's $634 million of work. And of course, a lot of it, the closeout is large. We don't like to have a lot of them closeout. We like to get them done. But that number is reflective of the K-12. And so that's why it's as high as what it is. But you can see the construction dollar amount, all of that in the next 2.5 years is going to be put into expenditures. And then, of course, we work through the design and the planning on the other projects. To walk through the projects, the K-12 now is in 2 separate contracts. There is a contract for the field house at Athletic Complex. that just got started. McKnight Construction is the construction manager on that. So they'll be working through the excavation foundations, and you start seeing the development of those ball fields behind the K-12 towards the railroad tracks. That's also part of this contract, too. And all of those, that work is all scheduled to be completed in spring of 2025. The Windsor Forest High School, yes, it's under construction. We had some difficulty getting through the permitting stage of it, but that project is back on schedule again and on schedule to be completed in August of 25. And then there'll be the move from the existing building to the new building, the demolishing of the new building, or the existing building. We don't want to demolish the new building, do we? And then the construction of the parking lot. And again, I keep saying, our team is the same team that did Jenkins. And so you will see that same type of thing happening at Windsor Forest. That happened at Jenkins. You didn't even know a new building was behind there until all at once someday you're driving down Durin and that old building's down and there's that beautiful new building. Same thing is going to be happening with Windsor Forest. So we're really excited about that. The Bloomingdale Elementary School project has kicked off also, excavation. You drive by there, you're not going to see a lot going. It's all underground right now, the excavation work, putting the slab in. But that project also is on schedule to complete in 2025. That EV charging station, another important project for us because we have electric buses coming, and this is where they will be charged. We had difficulties getting this through the county. Our county permitting process took almost 19 weeks to get through. It finally has been done, and in fact, this afternoon, they're having a pre-construction meeting out on site, and that's going to allow the contractor to take off and get started with this. So this project will push out into April or so. We just got to finalize that schedule and keep our fingers crossed that we have good construction because this is a big parking lot. And if we have a lot of rains like we have had in some previous years, you know what happens. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We have good construction weather. We can get this done as quickly as possible. Like to also mention, though, because this has been delayed, we are installing a temporary charger station at Port Wentworth. And so that will allow these buses to be used. But of course, we're going to really put the gas on this charging station at Gamble Road. 2 additions that are now under construction, additional classrooms at Godley, and that K-8 addition to Pulaski. Both of these projects are under construction. Great jobs by TQ Construction on Godley and Belford Beatty, one of our new construction managers that we're having great success with on Pulaski. Both projects on schedule for completion in 2024. J.G. Smith at modification. Of course, this school is targeted now to swing out and not to swing out until 2025. So consequently, design has just gotten started. There's going to be a major modification in this existing building, consisting of all new upgrades, finishes, mechanical, a lot of site work that has to be done in order to bring this building up to good standards. And Seala is in design also to be put into the Mercer School building. So that project is also on schedule, looking for being able to get started with construction in 2024 when the Groves High School moves out of it and goes into their new facility. Number of renovation projects that are going on. STEM, a very major renovation that's in design, going to be bid quite shortly here. And Garrison, I'd like to just kind of also make special mention of, because there's just been a lot of work going on in Garrison. They have been able to use that new dance room, which I know has really been an improvement for them. If you've gone in there and taken a look at the media center and the cafeteria with the finishes in there and the new furniture, you know, that's one thing that we have to really keep in mind. We can go into these older schools, and putting new furniture in just really helps a lot. So that's something that we're going to be doing more and more as we work ourselves through these. And I didn't put this on the slide, but I did want to make special mention of Savannah Arts. We're really pleased to say that they are having their first productions in the new auditorium this weekend. And they have just, you know, been in this building. They've been in the new cafeteria since the start of school. We noted that the cafeteria needed to have some more furniture. And so went out and we purchased that. We're going to be putting that in some areas where there are some openings, and that certainly will be a good improvement for that school also. Lots of renovation work that's being planned, and again, some of these projects are going to require swinging. And so we're looking at what our swing space is going to be, when it's going to be available, and then we can make our schedules work according to that. Re-roofing projects, Southwest Middle School is in progress right now. Largo actually was completed in November. Friday, they are having their final inspection over there. So that project is complete, and a number of the other ones that we also have working through. HVAC replacements, again, so good to get into these buildings and replace these HVAC systems. But again, that turns out to be summer work. You can't do much during the school year itself. Summers keep going like this on us. And so we were able to complete 3 of them last summer. There are 3 of them that are on the docket for this summer, and we're just going to continue to really push hard to get those. But there may be a day when we say, we're going to have to swing a school out to put a new HVAC system in there, because we just don't have enough time. And when you do that, you take the electrical down, you take everything down in the school. So it's a very tense time to get through the summertime. The high school practice fields, every one of these, Beach, Islands, Savannah High, Johnson, and New Hampstead now, every one of these fields are in use. That they still have to put scoreboards in them. That's going to be coming in December. And the track in New Hampstead is going to get pushed back into the spring of, at least the spring of 24. You cannot put a track surfacing on when you start having temperatures that dip below actually 50 degrees, believe it or not, at night. Now, we learned this lesson at Savannah High. And instead of pushing that track in the fall, we let it happen in the springtime, and as a result, we got a very, very good product. So that's what we will be doing with New Hampstead also. A number of other projects, again, just all part of that the list of projects that we have working down through there. The big one, obviously, is the bathroom facility that we are going to be opening up for the bus folks, and a number of these other projects are all also in construction.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Huttinger. And I just want to say I have literally heard from Garrison, Johnson High, and Savannah High parents about the practice fields at Johnson and Savannah High and the dance floors at Garrison. I am so pleased with that. So I thank you and the whole department for your work. And as I said at the informal meeting this morning, I feel this is a department where the community gets to see the work, and everywhere our footprint is, the community is enhanced. So I appreciate everything that the department is doing, and I thank you very much from all those children and families who are impacted by this.
Ms. Grabowski, then Mr. Kaczmar.
Thank you for the updates, and thank you for the work on Savannah Arts. I know it has been a challenging project. They actually have had their first production already in the new auditorium. It's a beautiful space, and I'm glad to hear that we're able to get additional furniture for the students in the cafeteria. Couple questions. On the EV charging center, when will we receive delivery of those electric buses? Or when do we anticipate trying to start them into use? Do we know?
They're actually arriving. We have received the first 5 buses. And then
Okay.
we'll have a schedule working with the vendor for the remaining of the total.
Okay, so we received the first 5?
Yes.
Okay, great. On Jacob G. Smith, do you know the design? I know it's been in lots of iterations of design. What's the current design phase for for the scope that we have outlined at the moment? Is it schematic, or do you know?
It's in fact, we're just finalizing the contract with J.W. Buckley, the
Okay.
architect, right now.
Okay, 'cause
And
I know
then
there was
we'll-
the change order,
Then
yeah.
we'll develop into schematic.
Okay, so you're still very early on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
new scope for
Yes.
Jacob G. Okay. And then for STEM Academy, what is the phase of the design development on the drawings for STEM?
That one is in final construction documents. We would, we are targeting to have that project out for bid early next year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kaczmar.
Yeah, thank you, you and Ms. Kegler for the thorough update. So I'm glad to hear the New Hampstead field is finally done and being used. I know we had some substrate issues there. Are those substrate issues also going to be an issue with the track?
No, sir, because we are just putting a new surface on the track. So all of the concrete that's under there is all going to remain. So we're just topping it, just surfacing it.
And then on the STEM project, I've asked this several times before, are we retaining the playfield?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And are we going to get a chance to see the final plan before it goes out to bid? The final drawings, the profiles, and all that?
We certainly can make that available, yes.
Thank
We
you.
can, and I think we're scheduled to be on site Monday. Is it Monday night? On Monday night, we're working through some logistics to be able to get some of that information disseminated on Monday. So we're vetting calendars right now. We will have some information to share before staff leave for the winter break.
All I ask is that before it goes out to bid for contractors, the board gets an opportunity to see it.
We can make that available. We'll
Thank you.
transmit it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Couple things. For West Chatham Middle School, it says, 2024 design planning phase in progress. Where are we on that?
Just in very early programming stage right now. We have not even selected through our architect on that one.
Is that the same with the Garden City Elementary?
Yes, sir.
And I know it says for the Pool Elementary pending evaluation. Do we have any idea when when evaluation might happen?
Not an exact date for it, but it would be probably out into 24, early 25.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Howard Hall.
Just to, well, thanks for your presentation. Just to reiterate what's on slide 6, there's a date scheduled for spring 2025, and I just want to make sure that's known that that's for the field house completion, because there's no date for the GMG K-12 complex, and we don't want anyone to think that this date represents both of those construction sites.
Correct.
No one else? Thank you.
Okay, I will try to be quick. I have a couple of agenda items, and I'll let you get to your next presentation and speakers. I believe the next agenda item is the East Plus 3 budget transfer for the field house and athletic field construction budget that was mentioned earlier. The item was posted on the website on board docs and has been shared with the board. The amount of the transfer is $6,393,569. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget transfer as noted.
It's moved by Mr. Katchmar, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? That is 8. No, she's at, yeah. All right.
The next item is for RFP C21-03, LED sports lighting for the Groves Multi-School Athletic Fields. This is to award the contract to Georgia Power for them to proceed with the lighting. The total cost would be $956,658. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the award of the contract to Georgia Power Company for LED sports lighting for Groves Multi-School Athletic Fields at a total cost of $956,658.
Moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? 8. 21 absent. Okay. All right. The main event. Under Goal 4, Fiscal Responsibility and Resource Stewardship, we have the Long Range Facilities Plan, Phase 1, year 24-25 recommendations. And I would encourage the audience to listen very closely.
Okay. We'd like to make an announcement that if there is a need for a Spanish version of the presentation, we are making that available in hard copy. And if you'll give us a...
Sir, a reminder for the board, you do have a action item in front of you. It is to the purview of the board chair. If you would like to have that read into record first, then discussion on any updates to the presentation, and then hearing from speakers. Is that how you'd like to proceed?
I would like to have the motion first. No, actually, I would like to have the presentation first, followed by the motion, followed by discussion of the board. Then we'll have those who have signed up for this.
What about speakers, then discussion?
No speakers after discussion. Okay?
Hearing that, the superintendent has some updates to provide on the originally presented presentation for LRFP SY 24-25 as originally presented at the November board meeting.
Thank you. I'm excited today to continue the conversation around our long-range facilities plan. As indicated by the date, and you can infer from the fact that this is part 1, there will be a part 2. Part 1 is to fulfill immediate needs so that during second semester we can begin to operationalize a plan that would go into effect in school year 24-25. I just want to highlight before jumping into this that, again, this has been an amazing experience of broken down silos, collaboration, discussion amongst various departments. our community, municipalities, and a range of other partners. And that is why we feel confident and that all aspects of this have been properly vetted that we are bringing to you today. The purpose of our long-range facilities plan, Part 1, is to optimize the usage of our facilities, improve our attendance boundaries, and most importantly, strengthen the effectiveness of our instructional programs. When we presented the initial plan to the board in November, I emphasize and continue to emphasize that this was a deliberate and strategic process. It included, first and foremost, student and staff needs, but balanced that with facility data that we have, enrollment and capacity data, as well as the need to improve efficiency across our district. So all of these factors were top of mind as we presented our recommendations. It is widely known that we have challenges in the district currently. We have schools that are both over and under capacities. We have schools that are ending a life cycle that we have to be attentive to, and we use data based in the FCI, the Facility Conditions Index, to help make us those determinations. We have arrival time and transportation issues with our buses. We have growth, particularly in Western Chatham County, that we are trying to mitigate for. And we are also trying to work as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible to better and best accommodate our emerging bilingual students and their families. So getting those programs optimized is also a challenge that we are trying to address in this work. I mentioned earlier the FCI data, so I just wanted to point everyone's eyes to this. You've seen it before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But this is really the primary data set in which we look at in this data-driven process. All of our schools in the district have been rated on this FCI index, and it ranges from a school receiving a really good FCI score, which is anywhere between 0 and 15%, all the way to an unsatisfactory FCI score. And it is important to us that we act as quickly as possible in any place where we see an unsatisfactory score. That's safety issues in some cases for our students and staff, utilization issues for our, in terms of efficiency, life cycle of buildings. So we really try to lean our eyes into anything that we see red in that data. I provided a snapshot on each of the next 3 slides of the FCI data and highlighted for you the ones in yellow that are included in this plan. And again, I want to remind everybody, we use our eyes and we really try to go to anything that is in red, because if it is in red, it could potentially mean safety issues for our students, conduciveness issues for students and staff, life cycle building issues. They are issues that we have to address as a board and as a community. Just to point out an example of that, since I know one of the discussions today is Gould Elementary, you can see that the FCI score for Gould Elementary is 43, and the capacity, the utilization rate and the capacity of the building is well over what we would want it to be, and it's in bright red. So that is a school going into this process that we knew we needed to have a response for. And I won't look at all the other schools on the list, but you can peruse those at your pleasure and note all ones in red that, again, align to this plan. The purpose here is to see that our process is data-driven. We did not start off arbitrarily. We are using a data set to try to base our decisions. The other data point that I want you to be cognizant of, and to me this creates one of the most compelling cases on this slide of why we have to be attentive to this long-range facilities plan, particularly in Part 1. So just for a moment, the grade boxes for 2021, 21, 22, those are anomaly years. We were having COVID, so kind of don't look at those years because it was an anomaly everywhere. But what I'd like to draw your eyes to is the 2019-20 year, which was the last pretty much year that we were normal. We were normal up until March, and then we all know across the country what happened in March. But prior to March, we had 328 drivers in our staff. We had 291 routes, and we had an on-time arrival rate of 83.6. Our transportation department was operating at a highly a satisfactory and above level, I would say. It was optimized. But if you let your eyes now go down to the green box that says 22-23, which was last school year, you can see how far we have reduced the number of drivers. You can see that we have had to reduce the number of routes significantly, which this accommodates for our choice plan decision, that we don't transport students who are choice students. And then the most dismal number there is our on-time arrival rate, which is 52%. That is students missing instructional time. That is our students not in school to eat breakfast and to be able to start the day with their peers so that teaching and learning is maximized. We do not have an on-time arrival date for this school year because that's calculated aggregately at the end of the year. But if you allow your eyes to glance to that last green box, you will also see that if we continue the same trend, we could probably expect an even lower on-time arrival rate for this school year. Again, I want to emphasize this is student learning time that we are cutting into each and every day. So this was just an important slide, and again, a reminder that we have to address transportation as we move forward with the proper resources, the proper compensation, conditions, so that we can improve these numbers. This should be alarming to people. It's alarming to me. We brought you a plan that we felt like offered some solutions and benefits. Is it a perfect plan? Absolutely not. It is not. There are no easy answers to these questions. There is a lot of complexity that we have to cut through in order to try to get the best possible answer. But the solutions and the benefits of the plan, we believe, do bring about some improved transportation routing. It does help with some of those bright red numbers where we need to improve capacity in our schools. It does begin, and I'm going to use the word begin, to right-size enrollment concerns in our schools, especially in schools where we know we have way more students than the building can accommodate, which creates safety issues. Which creates overcrowded classrooms. A principal that is impacted in one of these plans says currently her classes are sitting at about 35 to 40 students per classroom. She has teachers on carts. She has teachers that are leaving because their classrooms are on carts, and she cannot hire for the vacancies that she has because there is nowhere to put the teacher to teach. And so that is not conducive. We do not want that for our students. We want to create logical attendance zone configuration. We want to make sure we have swing space. So yes, there is a need to get rid of schools that are in, or buildings that are in our inventory, but we have to balance that with having the opportunity to have swing space. When we do renovations on a site, and I've heard our team loud and clear, it is much more difficult, not efficient, not safe when we do those renovations with students sitting in buildings. And so maintaining a couple of sites that we can swing students in was also a benefit that we saw in this plan. Over 2 years, we believe this plan will save the district $2.6 million. I'm excited about the $2.6 million, but I want to go back to say that there is no way you can monetize student learning time. I wish there was a number. It would be well more than 2.6 million. So there is a monetary value, but there is also an instructional value that we tried to recognize. And then finally, knowing that we need to do better in service of our emerging bilingual students and our GNET students, this plan also enhances instructional services provided to those populations of students. We have been busy since the November meeting. We brought you a proposal in November, and we went to work immediately after that, providing parent notifications, dedicating a website so that individuals had access to information so that they could engage properly in conversations. We provided media updates and interviews as requested in most cases. We held parent meetings, and we also held meetings with principals and staff of each of the schools impacted. Again, I want to just acknowledge the team and all the effort that went into communicating and engaging people in the process. We also, and as I get into the recommendations, I want to highlight the fact that we also listened. I wish I could just put a big slide with an ear on it to signal that. We listened. No, I did not respond to every email that was sent to me because there was so many, but I did my best to respond to as many as I could. I know our board received many emails, letters, invitations to meetings, and I want to thank you and your support. The key piece here is that we listened, and our board members worked, our team worked to accommodate what we heard to the extent possible. Again, it is a balancing act. There are no perfect answers, and this is uncomfortable for all of us, including me, who is making a very ambitious recommendation to the board today and to the community. All of the recommendations, the initial recommendations that we made in November will remain as previously presented. We have made updates. Gould Elementary, we'll be providing you with an update on that particular school. That particular school had a domino effect to some extent on Butler, Haven, and Hodge, so there is a update in terms of those schools. And then Largo, Tibet, and the STEM Academy Swing Space Timeline, just the timeline, has an update that I will be providing momentarily. We will continue to move forward with enhancing our service to our ESOL programs. Students that are now congregated in hub sites across our districts will return to their home schools where their families are in the communities that they live in. They have access to the schools, and we will provide the services and enhance services at the home school sites. And so you can see our hubs currently exist at Rice Creek, Windsor Forest, West Chatham, and May Howard. Students will be returning to their home schools where the services will be offered in year 24-25, with the exception of May Howard, and that return of those students will be occurring in 25-26. Again, standing recommendations. These are the recommendations that do not change. I will not go over each one of those because you heard me do that in November. So there is no change to these particular projects. The projects that I do want to outline that will be modified from the original November proposal, first and foremost, is Gould Elementary. Again, I want to say to the community, to the staff, to all organizations and every advocacy group, we listened, we heard. We did not always respond to every email because there were so many to respond to, but we were listening intently. Your board member representative was involved, and we came together for a solution that we believe is a win-win. To the extent possible we could make it, which means when I say win-win, it balances both student and staff need, but it also maintains the need that we had to balance efficiency, transportation, facility conditions. It's a balance of both things. So in the new proposal, students at Gould Elementary Those that are in the immediate area would remain at Gould, with a portion of those students, particularly those that are off of Quaco Road, would go to the new Hampstead K-8. So in the new proposal and in the new map, 493 students approximately would remain at Gould Elementary in the facility where they currently exist, where many of our families can walk to school and have direct access to the staff and programs that are already currently running at the Gould site would remain to the extent possible. 493 students would continue their matriculation at Gould. 394 students would be rezoned to New Hampstead K-8, which is in proximity to where they live, and any program that is needed there to support that the students that need to be supported would also be implemented at New Hampstead K-8. So as we think about Gould, I'm going to actually go ahead and move to the next slide. Here is the map that you have in front of you, which basically articulates here that Gould Elementary School has the current building has a capacity of 650. Today, there is approximately 887 students in that building, which is clearly over capacity. In the new proposal, 493 students would remain at Gould, which you can see now it brings that red number more to green. It will be more to green now because it's under the stated capacity of the building. And New Hampstead K-8, which has a capacity of 1,500 students, would take the 394 students that are coming from Gould to the New Hampstead K-8. Those students would then matriculate naturally to New Hampstead High School at their completion of grade 8 at New Hampstead. So that is the new proposal. I'm going to see if I can slide back to the other changes. Because of the Gould change, it triggers a change now at Butler, Haven, and Hodge. If you remember correctly, the initial proposal had students from Gould attending Butler, Haven, and Hodge, again, schools in close proximity to their homes, and it also solved for underutilization of those 3 sites. The new proposal will include no movement. So just to be clear, Butler, Haven, and Hodge will continue to be underutilized facilities. They will not be operating at as efficiently as we would like them to be. The slight change to the STEM Academy proposal includes simply a change in timeline. Largo Tibet, we will advance the proposal that we close that site at the conclusion of this school year. Students would then move to the new sites, Pulaski and White Bluff, Windsor, I apologize. Those students would move to those new sites. And we know that the Largo Tibet building needs some work. You saw some things around renovations that needed to be done to bring that building up to at least a satisfactory level, but we still have the flooding issue in the back of the building, and there's no easy answer for that. So we need to address some of those things so that in 25-26, we can then swing STEM Academy over into that building while the STEM Academy receives the renovations that were just discussed in the previous eSplosh presentation. So that, again, is those are our tweaks, our changes. More importantly, they're evidence that we listened to the extent possible. Again, this is not a change. There were other places where there was change requested. We also heard all of those parents. I also worked with board members around that, but there were no easy answers to solving some of the challenges at those other sites. But the same due diligence was applied in any situation where we heard families or staff that did not feel that the plan fit their specific needs. Some next steps. So we're still not done. Obviously, you all have to decide today whether you will endorse the plan. If you do decide that you endorse our plan, we have lots of work to do in second semester. We have to work diligently to handle staff assignments with care. I want to reemphasize that no staff member will lose his or her job. This is not a reduction in force. Everyone will land. I'll talk just a little bit more about that. We have to continue to work, double down on our work to support our ESOL families. We have a multitude of parent meetings and open houses that we will need to have to ensure any family, any child that's transitioning to a new site feels welcomed, feels a sense of belonging, feels like there was a smooth handoff so that they can begin the 25-26 school year in the best position possible. We have to look at bail times, and the big asterisk at the bottom of this is that we also have to have 2 public hearings for additional feedback from the communities. And so we'll be working with the board in the next couple of weeks to get those 2 meetings scheduled. This is a legal requirement. We don't have a choice. While we've been listening to feedback, we have to continue to listen to feedback to meet this, this legal requirement. I want to talk just a minute about staff, again, emphasizing that no staff person will lose a job as a result of this proposal. We will be, we have been and we will continue to meet with principals and provide insight to any impacted teacher, from cafeteria worker to custodian to teachers, so that they are well aware of how this impacts them. We will be offering all staff an actual document that outlines what the transfer guidance is. And we will also be prioritizing any staff that is impacted by this so that those individual staff members have an opportunity to get started in the transfer process earlier than we opened it up for other staff members. We'll be working with principals and hiring managers so that we can ease the process. There will be no interviewing. These are already teachers and staff members in our district, so they're not interviewing for a new job. But we want to make sure that there's a good fit if they are impacted by this. We do have a district-wide voluntary internal transfer process. Impacted staff, again, would be prioritized in this process. We're looking at holding things like meet and greets, again, just to provide a connection so that impacted staff will land in a place where they feel like they can continue to thrive. And then the last 2 lines there are things that we do across the district, identifying certified and classified staff who have not been reassigned. We continue to work with those staff members beginning in April, and then we will continue to review impacted staffing rosters again to make sure everyone lands in a place where they are certified to teach. So that is kind of an outline of how we are trying to handle the staff assignments with care. And there are additional next steps for our emerging bilingual students, our newest members to our community who we welcome. We want to make sure that they have meet and greet opportunities. We want to make those both virtual and face-to-face so that we can accommodate as many families as possible. Orientation opportunities. We want to make sure that district staff is assigned to support family and student transitions well, and assigning student ambassadors to our ELL students. So again, they feel welcomed into a new school. They feel a sense of immediate belonging and connection to a peer as they matriculate into a new site. We have lots of work to do with our staff. I understand Gould has the magic sauce of how we interact with and educate our emerging bilingual students. We want to learn from them. We want to continue to learn best practices. And we also want to cascade professional development to our teachers. We want to begin providing feedback to our teachers so that they can internalize best practices for teaching students who may be learning English as a second language. We want to offer extended professional development opportunities, and we will be promoting our current endorsement. We have always had this endorsement, but we want to promote as many staff as we can possible in our district to receive that endorsement to teach English as a second language to students. Actually, a lot of the best practices work with all students, regardless if they are English language learners. They actually help all students. So promoting that would be another strategy that we would have to support the transition of our ESOL students. With that said, that is our recommendation. I am ready for questions, and I would also prompt staff to be ready should something go deeper than my knowledge level.
Okay, so Dr. Hoskins-Brown, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate all the time and effort that staff put into this, and I appreciate that it has been an intense process of considering and reconsidering. I'd like to ask about the standing recommendations that are on slide 12. Could you give me more detail about the For Me Schumann action? Because I feel like I've gotten a lot of information about Gould and GMG, but I don't think I understand that as well as I understand others.
Yes, ma'am. So at the end of this, let me start you from the beginning and walk you backwards. When we complete this project, what we would essentially have is For Me Early Learning Center being a premier early learning center that would house current Williams K-2 students, current Schumann K-2 students, and the current students that For Me educates today. And Williams would then become the premier 3-5 school that would house all students that are currently at Schumann and exist today at Williams. So looking at the two schools as almost sister schools to one another, one is our pre-K2 site, and then when students finish at For Me, they would then matriculate to Williams grades 3 through 5. And the two schools would be partnering in educating students in that community. Now, to get to that ideal state, there's a lot of moving pieces. One big moving piece is that For Me, as you saw in a previous presentation, is having renovations done. We don't want to do the renovations with students on site. So next school year, students that are currently at For Me will move to Schumann while we renovate For Me, bring it up to the optimized level. So next year, Schumann will have all of the pre-K and pre-K and K1-2 students that are currently at For Me, K1 students.
So yes, For Me currently has a 3-year-old program, pre-K and K. All of those students will move into Schumann next year, alongside of Schumann Elementary, which will remain in its K-5 site in that location for next school year.
Okay, that's a very significant change that I was not aware of. And it kind of undoes creating this land of the little people. So
just for 1 year, though, just while we do the renovations, that's it. Then they go back to Schumann. Then they go back to For Me.
Okay, so the renovations are for the age class that is currently there. Okay, and so it'll be the land of the little people like it is now. And then during the renovations, they're out for the renovation. And then after that, it goes back to being pre-K.
And it would include Schumann's pre-K and second grade.
So that's the big change that I wasn't aware of, and I need more information to be comfortable with that.
Okay.
So that I'm not as supportive of that as you would probably like at this time, because I'm just getting that. And I kind of need to know more about the ramifications. And two, I really like the two bookends of the pre-K west, east, like I said, for lack of a better term, land of the little people that we had developed to really amplify that. And I thought that we were moving in a direction to increase the number of people in our pre-K and not recombine.
We will still continue to look to increase the number of pre-K seats.
Okay.
The only thing that this does is it brings our pre-K 2 students from Schumann that would They're not even in school right now. They're little now, but it would move them over to Formy with still opportunity to increase the number of seats there. There is room to increase seats.
Yeah, I think I'm concerned about, so we've had one conversation that was just closing Schumann.
And this will close Schumann.
Okay.
So when the students move out, it closes Schumann.
And then I think I need more discussion on this connected strategy for Williams as it would change the grades available there and the learning levels available at Formy. I don't have the same level of hesitance about others of these, so I don't know if we could, if that particular thing can be tabled and the other recommendations can be moved forward until we can have more discussion on it, or maybe I can. I'm reluctant because that's not what I understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Hall?
I was going to defer to our District 8 person, since this is her.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. We all know that there has been significant growth on the west side of the county, West Chatham. That has been a major concern of mine since elected 2019. We have done several things to try to alleviate that problem. For example, Rice Creek K-8 school was built. New Hampstead High School was built. New Hampstead K-8. Now we're currently adding 24 classrooms to Godley Station, and we still have the same concerns. Also, with our GMG school, the elementary grade span was modified to occupy 250 seats, which did not include our Gould students because those 250 seats pretty much accommodated those students that lived in close proximity to GMG. Therefore, I appreciate that we went back to the drawing board and came up with modifications, because initially I was not in favor of the proposal, because being that Gould had over 800 students, they were not included at all to attend GMG. Now, based upon the modifications, that puts me at ease. However, due to the modifications, we're going to have to change the name of GMG because it's no longer Gould, Mercer, and Groves.
Yes, ma'am.
But I am in favor of this proposal. I know there are many moving parts to this proposal, as Dr. Houston Brown just reiterated what's going on with our Formy school. However, I am grateful that we listen to our constituents, our parents, our teachers, and our staff, because it's very important that we keep our word. And everyone was under the impression that Gould would be placed within the K-12 facility. So I'm pleased about what's going on with that. And for that reason, with that modification, I will be in favor of this proposal.
Thank you.
Now I can have it.
Okay, Ms. Hall.
Just very quickly, I endorse Dr. Howard Hall's comments, and I appreciate all the work and the consideration that went in. And I hope the community understands, yes, we as a board listened to you, and we worked out a way that this could happen. So I'm very pleased to support the families of Gould and to make this work. On the other point is, I too would like to table the discussion of the Williams-Formy plan, if we could separate that from the rest of this going forward. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
First off, I want to say that I appreciate everything that Dr. Watts has done and all the staff. I've had many of conversations with Dr. Watts about this, particularly between Gould and New Hampstead K-8 and New Hampstead High School. There are a lot of moving parts out in West Chatham. We did a disservice by filling New Hampstead basically at capacity when they opened the doors. We've also, we were smart in not filling the capacity with New Hampstead K-8. So we did learn something. However, with New Hampstead K-8, we're turning our kids into widgets. We're looking at them as data points and not that human aspect of it. Some of these kids are going from Godly Station, and then they find out they're going to New Hampstead K-8, but they don't actually go to New Hampstead K-8. They're still in Godly Station, but they're at a school within a school at Godly Station, and then they go to New Hampstead K-8 because we finally got it finished, and now some of these parents and families are being told, oh, well, by the way, you're going back to Godly Station. That's very hard for kids, and I know kids are resilient and they can do a lot, but that's a lot of moving parts within a very short amount of time. We also have New Hampstead High School. I love the Phoenix out there. They're great. The parents are great. The parents are active. They're highly involved. The principal has done amazing jobs with the fact that they've been at over 100% capacity since I've been on this board since 2016. And I understand what Mrs. Fultz is going through, and I know that she wishes she could keep every single child in that building. However, with that, it's just New Hampstead High School, they've got something going on out there. They have that community, they have that culture we talk about, and because of those things, with West Chatham Middle School, those guys are getting split up as well. You have parts of my district where they would be going to Gould. Great, they don't have to move from Gould. Then they go to West Chatham, and then instead of going with most of their friends they get from West Chatham to go to New Hampstead High School, they're going to go into Beach High School, which is literally from my house in Berwick Plantation is 0.1 mile difference. So because of all these moving parts, because of everything, because it's what's best for the citizens of West Chatham, and I've been consistent since day one, I cannot support this. I will not support this. And I hope that my fellow board members will not support this.
Dr. Bringman, do you have anything?
Oh, I mean,
Go for it.
I will support this. We hired a new superintendent to come and look at everything with no attachments to any part of our community, but to make school better for our students. Will there be pain for families? Yes. In the long run, will this be beneficial for our community? Yes. As Dr. Watts so eloquently said, it's a balancing act, and not everybody can win. But we have schools that are running at 100% capacity, and to continue to run those over 100% capacity is not good for those constituents. So it's hard for me to hear you say that it's good for your constituents to have their students in a school that's busting at the seams, where I think every parent would say they'd want their student to be in a class of 20 or 25 and not 35 or 40. I bought into the plan knowing that Dr. Watts was truly doing what she talked about today, the 3 L's: listening, learning, and leading. We had, I don't know if it's a town hall or a meeting at Mole Auditorium at Beach High, and Gould showed up and talked. And I knew some of those teachers from other schools and just started talking to them after the meeting. And during that time, I said, I promise you, Dr. Watts will make time to listen to you. I will make sure that she comes to your school and listens to you. And at some point in time, in the 30 or 40 minutes that I was talking to those teachers and parents, I guess everybody else left the front area of Mole Auditorium, and Dr. Watts made her way back into the auditorium and saw me holding court.
To a staff
and
meeting.
probably seeing me on the hot seat. And she came in and she said, hey, what's up? Let me listen. And every time there was a lull in the conversation, instead of trying to find a way to leave the conversation, Dr. Watts said, is there anything else you'd like to share with me? And I think she said that at least 3 or 4 times. And teachers left that day still not knowing what was going to happen, because we weren't at this plan. We were at a different plan. And they wrote me, I think some of them probably wrote Dr. Watts to say, I know that you're making difficult decisions, but I know I have finally been heard. So I believe that the district has done their due diligence in hearing everybody's side of the story. And there are going to be some hard decisions. If we want to make things efficient on the operational side, if we want to make classroom smaller capacity for our teachers to teach in, if we don't want teachers teaching from carts, if we want to retain teachers, and there's going to be some growing pains on that. So I commend you for coming in and having a plan that is difficult to deliver, but I support it. To the community, thank you for speaking your voice. And if we could wave a magic wand, we'd make it all the way everybody wants it to be. I would like to remind the community, I really don't think that when we get a plan like this, because it's been said multiple times in emails and in phone calls, that the vote's already in. I promise you the vote was never in. Please try to remove that from the culture of Savannah, that you believe that we come already knowing exactly how we're going to vote, and that before the first plan in November was ever presented to the public, that the vote was already in. The vote isn't still in. And I don't know how Dr. Watts is feeling over there, but I want that to be echoed in the community, that we are not just, 9-0 every time on everything. Please don't think that we sit somewhere and figure out exactly how we're going to vote before these things. I think everybody would echo that. So please, please, please continue to advocate for your students and understand that our superintendent is truly dedicated to advocating for the entire community. Unfortunately, to do that, sometimes disruption does occur.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. I would like to say a number of things. I'm going to be as quick as possible. I champion the For Me school, and I would like to make sure that the students there, the staff there, that they're protected and that all is well with them. So I would like to take another look at that whole situation or scenario. I would also like to say to the community that there is no perfect answer or remedy for this issue. When I hear that there is one teacher serving 35 to 40 students, that is a ratio that is not healthy for the success of our students. And that's the truth. And so that's where my heart is. My heart is to see the students and the faculty and the staff working in an environment that will be conducive to their mental health as well as their educational health. Absolutely. And I believe that this plan does reflect that. Again, when the original plan came out, there was a lot of tweaks to be worked out. And I am so honored that we were able to hear from the community and make decisions and make tweaks and make edits, because we work for you. We want to see things come together. We want to see things go in the right direction. Unfortunately, again, the bottom line is we cannot always make it perfect, but we're striving the best that we can to make it better. So I'm in support of this plan.
Okay, yes, Han. Before I said we would
Listen to
we would do the motion and everything. What? After after Ms. Grabowski speaks, unless any other board members speak, I will have the public speak, and then we will make the motion. Okay? All right, Ms. Grabowski.
Thank you. I want to echo the gratitude to Dr. Watts and to your team I know you spent hours upon hours, weekends, evenings, working on this plan, and thank you for that. And thank you to everyone for open-mindedness in looking for opportunities to be able to evolve this plan to where it is today. I am grateful that we're able to keep Gould open. I am a huge advocate for neighborhood schools, and I always hate to lose a neighborhood school, so I'm grateful we were able to make that change. I do have one question about Gould. So one of the things that you talked about in your presentation, Dr. Watts, was trying to place students in a school that's closest to them geographically for efficiencies for transportation. And I know that the students that are on the north side or the opposite side of Highway 21 from the new K-12 campus historically went to Port Wentworth. Port Wentworth closed. It's my understanding they now are at Brock Elementary. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly not advocating to change students when we don't need to. However, it's not lost upon me that the students who live directly across from this new school are going to be going to a different school than the one that is immediately across the street on
Yes.
the elementary
They-
side.
Yes, they will be.
So I'd be interested in understanding, is there a path forward, maybe not now, but as we continue to see growth on the west side and as our demographics shift, to be able to transition gently to try and avoid disruption to the extent possible, those students into the K-12 campus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Moving those students, when you look at a map, makes sense. They do live right across the highway from 21. So looking at the map, one would say, yes, it makes logical sense. However, moving those students from Brock further underutilizes Brock, and it disrupts a group of kids' education. It provides a solution, but it also provides another problem. It actually exacerbates a problem that we have at Brock. And so while that was taken under consideration, I think it is something future-facing we could look at.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Remind
Okay.
me, is Gould a choice, does Gould
No,
Gould
no.
have a choice? Okay. And I did have one second comment, if I can make it very quickly, just to the plan as a whole and to echo some of my fellow board members. Change is never easy. These decisions are never easy. I grew up in a community in the Atlanta area that was experiencing a very high growth rate, and had these same things happen to me as a student. I remember 5th grade, I was so excited I was going to get to walk to school, and got rezoned to an elementary school across town. Same thing happened when I was in middle school. My last year of middle school, rezoned to a new school. Unfortunately, it happens in high growth areas. I'm not sure there's a single district across Georgia or even across the country that doesn't have to make these same very difficult decisions. But as I believe it was Reverend Smith said, when we have 40 students in a classroom, when we can't keep teachers because of the teaching conditions, when we have teachers on carts, we cannot ignore that information. And so I think it is incumbent upon us to make the hard decisions that have to be made in order to provide the best education for our students and work environment for our teachers and staff.
Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, Ms. Hall, and then I'm going to talk to you guys.
Mr. Boyce, I want you to count 60 seconds.
Yeah.
As a retired educator from 3 different school districts in Illinois, South Carolina, and Georgia, I can tell you the children are going to be all right. They're going to end up meeting their best friends. They're going to end up meeting their future spouses. The kids are going to be fine. If we adults can let them be children and not fill them with any anxiety about change and what's to come. If we let them be children, go to school, and make friends, they're going to be fine. We adults need to be the ones who can grasp change and move with it. But the children will be fine. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. That was 43 seconds. Good job. Okay, we have a lot of people speaking today. Because we have so many people speaking today, I am going to ask that you keep your remarks to 2 minutes. Okay? First, we have Mr. Elijah Forbes Young. All right, sit right there.
Hello, council members of the board. My name is Eli, but full name Elijah. I'm a 10th grader at New Hampstead High School. I came here because I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story and also I feel like this entire board meeting regarding this plan has been talking about students, but there's never been an actual student's perspective. And I've talked to a lot of my friends, and even just people at my school about this and getting their opinions and what they've gone through in the past as well. I want to give you my story first. I'm originally from Oregon. We just moved here this year, actually. And the main reason we moved here was to go to New Hampstead High School. I'm a tri-sport athlete. I do football, wrestling, and track. And I'm also in honor classes. And I chose to go where we lived. That's the reason we bought our house, was to be here and go to New Hampstead. And I've also moved and gone to a total of 6 different schools in my lifetime. As a student who's recently found out about this, obviously it's been troubling. Talking to other students as well, it's really just been hard. There's been a lot of things that we've been promised that are just going to be taken away. As an athlete, me and at least 7 members of my football team have all been designated to be rezoned. Starting spots gone, and I've talked to people as well who, at the meeting we had when they originally told us about New Hampstead getting moved, it's really hard, and we're probably going to be scholarships gone and stuff like that. I also wanted to say, when it comes to academics, the schools that we're being moved to, simply when it comes to the conditions and the academics, maybe behind closed doors or not, we hear a lot of things from students there, and it's a lot different behind closed doors, at least from what we've heard. And it makes me, am I getting close to time?
I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go.
Oh, thank you, sir. Sorry.
You're okay.
But more though, just in general, I think there's a lot of things that I could be saying right now, and there's a lot of things that I want to say going forward, multiple topics through there's a lot of things that we need to cover. This is a very complicated thing, as you said. There's a lot of moving parts, and I'm obviously not going to be able to talk about everything I want to talk about. But I just really want to say that as a student, I know you said the children will be fine. I personally just cannot attest to that. Already having to move schools 6 different times, it's not just like that. Even just moving here has been a very, very hard struggle for me. And I know I've had a lot of friends as well who have moved a lot in their past. And it's a very difficult struggle. And it's something, especially I know you would maybe think that the younger it is, the easier. But it gets harder the older you get, because you're getting more of a grasp on what life really is and what you're like, who you are and stuff. And changing, especially in times of middle schools and high schools, which is a lot of what is mainly impacted by this plan. It's very, very difficult. So I applaud you all and especially Mr. Johnson, for seemingly being one of the only ones to actually consider the students wholeheartedly. And I thank you all for letting me speak today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, Ms. Rebecca Musgrave.
Good evening. I had this whole thing done, but after he came up here and everything, and with Ms. Hall's comment about the children will be fine, some children will be fine, but not all of them. I am a parent at New Hampstead High School. I'm also the PTSA president of the Football Booster Club, as well as serve on the school council. I am here today on behalf of the current Phoenix families affected by the rezoning proposal. We just found out about who was going to be affected a little over a month ago, and here we are today, and the board is voting on this. While I understand that the school is crowded, this proposal, it looks great on paper, but our students and families should be taken into account first on what kind of impact this will cause. It's going to cause financial impact. Uniforms, spirit wear, all that has been bought already. They could easily resell it, but for a way lower price than what they had. Some families may be okay with changing schools. However, many are not. I can speak with certainty on the effect this is causing some of our football players and their families. While my child is not one of those being affected physically, he is being affected emotionally. We have a large, tight-knit football program. These boys are with each other 9 months out of the year, training, conditioning, and practicing. They are like brothers. These kids have a bond like no other, and to remove these kids in their last years of public school is causing emotional stress on many of our families. I am asking you to please vote no on this current proposal. This proposal should include allowing current Phoenix families to be grandfathered in and allowed to remain at New Hampstead as long as they can provide their transportation. If this proposal is approved, many will be leaving this district and enrolling their children into private schools, which is what we don't need. Lastly, I'm going to end with this. Our children are not numbers, and they're not game pieces. Quit treating them like one.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramirez? Oh, that was, I'm sorry. No, that was Ms. Musgrove. Yeah. Ramirez? Okay. Martinez? Janice Martinez? Right. Ortega? No, there's no proposal. No. Mrs. Maria Ariata? Okay. Okay. Ms. Castaneda. Mrs. Allison Freeman. Alejandro Del Raso.
Good afternoon. I think all those people that you were mentioning, they just left because they have to go pick up their kids or just letting you know. Good afternoon, members of the school board, superintendent, families, community. I am very grateful for the opportunity to speak today. Today I not come only to advocate for the rights of immigrants, students and their families, but also to give a voice to the rest of the students and teaching community. Changes like the one that was planned for Gold Elementary School will negatively affect the entire community because Gold Elementary School is more than just in the school. Gold Elementary is a safe place where everyone understands, helps, and takes care of each other. From students and their families to teachers, administrators, and the staff who work at the school, Gold Elementary is one big family. I can say a lot about Gould, but we all know that. It's an example to follow for the rest of the schools in the district. They really take care of the kids. And for them, they're not just numbers. They're kids, their families, their stories. They're a sense of really a strong community in that area.
I would like to say thank you to you all for listening to the community, for not just sit down here and just think about numbers and how you think that is the best for all. Thank you for listening, all these parents here. I have here a book that is a bunch of draws that the kids made to express how they feel about the change, about to don't see their peers again. And I will pass it to you. Some of them are really good. So today I will ask you guys here to think again, to reevaluate this plan, which is not a bad plan. I see a lot of good stuff in these plans, and I really appreciate it. But I would like you guys to reevaluate this plan and don't vote in favor, because it still have some things to need to be adjusted, and maybe having these plans adjust and then having for voting again. But most importantly, I will say, you guys, please do not take apart Gold community, Gold family, because it's still 394 students that are going to move to a different school. There's a lot of families too. There's a lot that they need to be heard. They need to be accounted in those decisions. Like, hey, we listen to you. We're gonna work for you, with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Victor Lopez. Mrs. Kelly Graham.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm a little conflicted about what I actually wrote, listening to some of the parents and knowing that the new proposed plan for Gould does cut some of our current students out. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kelly Graham, and I'm the proud parent of a first grader at Gould Elementary. I and other parents, students, and staff at Gould received news of a new revised proposal for Gould Elementary. While I'm saddened to hear that all of our Gould Gators will not be returning to our campus next year, I do understand that as is, because of the tremendous expansion and growth in our district, Gould Elementary is way over realistic functional capacity. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening to our concerns and hearing our voices. I am grateful that Gould Elementary will be allowed to remain in the community as the staple that it has historically come to be. I understand the current Gould building will require some upgrades and renovations to keep our facilities safe for all. And with that being said, going forward, it is my sincere hope that we at Gould Elementary, along with the SCCPSS, this is a lot of letters, y'all. Board, I'm gonna make sure I had this right. Other SCCPSS stakeholders, our superintendent, Dr. Janice Swatz, and especially our District 8 School Board Representative, Dr. Tanya Howard Hall, will be able to cultivate a partnership built on clear, consistent, and transparent communication, and a partnership whereby all sides are willing to come to a compromise that is beneficial to all parties, even if there are dissenting opinions. Thank you for taking the first step in extending an olive branch to provide a compromise with our Gould community, though it may not be favorable to all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Monique Nelson. Okay. Mrs. Mayana White.
I was here 4 months ago about our field, so you guys know how compassionate I am about our school. Saddens me that I live in Berwick. my 10th grader who started attending New Hampstead when he was in 8th grade, just training with the coaches, he won't be here for varsity year. Freshman, JV, how excited to be varsity. Won't be doing that next year. He also has an IEP, struggles with education. The school, Beach, statistic-wise, reading, math, I think it's 6% versus New Hampshire's 12%. Even though this school is busting at the seams, they love their students, and they are working with them, and they are making the grades, and they are well more established than Beach is. There's a problem with Beach's academics. There's a problem with their attendance. There's a problem with their graduation rate. It's 74% from last year. So, yeah, last year was 74%. New Hampshire has a 94%. We're talking about our 11th and 12th graders. He's going to be 11th and 12th grade, where I want him to be promoted. I want him to get the education he needs. He's been working with these IEP teachers for 9th and 10th grade. So now we're going to have to reestablish him for 11th and 12th grade. This is not easy for us. I don't think they're going to land on their feet. They're not taking it easy. These kids are crying. I see a kid that has just went to playoffs this year with a school like Beach, who only has 1 win. I can't sell this school to him. Socially, I commend this boy. He came and spoke. The kids don't want it. As far as the community goes with Beach and whatnot, I mean, you guys see the news. You see what they talk about. Our kids don't want to be here. They don't want to go to Beach. Sell this school to me, because I don't see it. You're taking us from a good school and you're putting us in a lower school. Yes, they are operating under the numbers. They're not to capacity, but they're also not performing well. And you add our extra group. They're probably going to be great kids, but you put us in a lower. It's not competing. We're not on the same playing field. Help our students, because where you're putting them, where are we getting progress from? Unless Beach is going to get extra teachers, are they going to get extra support? Because they're just not there academically. Help us help our students, because even athletically, they don't want to go. You guys are taking away scholarship opportunities for them. These recruiters are not going to go to a school with 1 win. I commend this little boy. He came up here and he spoke about it. We are trying to make great men. Help us make great men. We love our students. We do not want to send them to Beach. I'm so sorry. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Harry Morgan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Harry Morgan. I have 5 kids that are in the New Hampstead School District, and I want to talk to you about 2 topics real quick, because everybody's behind me. You all came in today talking about transparency. You haven't heard our voices yet from people talking in here, and you're already telling me what you support and what you don't. That doesn't really reflect transparency to me. We showed up to the meeting, and the presenter that was bringing the proposal to us at the K-8 elementary school was late due to traffic. There was no voting voice at my meeting. No decision maker was there. There was an admin person there, and she did an outstanding job and took it on the chin like a champ, and God bless her. But there was nobody that actually had a say in it there. Felt a little ungenuine. Second thing I want to talk about, since I've been here, since 2018, when we bought our house and picked our schools, my students, my kids were the kids that were housed in Godley as part of New Hampstead, went to New Hampstead, and now are being sent back. Okay, I personally think that's unacceptable. And the reason I've been getting told this is transportation. Transportation. We're changing bell times, transportation. We're not offering transportation anymore to certain schools because of transportation. Why are we putting Band-Aids on bullet holes? If transportation is an issue because they don't have the resources they need, then by God, get them the resources they need. Your bus drivers are not competitive. That position is not competitive because I work in the logistical realm around here. A brand new truck driver with a CDL starts off at $25 an hour. Your bus drivers start off at 15. I think I got told 18 today was the new one. They top out at 28. The port hires people at 28. That's why you can't get bus drivers. And I know the national average is low across the country, but let's not worry about averages. Let's worry about Chatham County. Let's make our bus drivers some of the best paid bus drivers so everybody wants to come work for us. It says on your website that a bus driver works 5 to 8 hours. They get paid for 5 to 8 hours. If I do my route as a bus driver and I can do it in 5 hours and I'm efficient and I'm on time, I should be paid for an 8-hour day because I put in 8 hours of work. If I'm taking a football team to somewhere and I'm gone from my family for 6 hours because we had to go to Carroll for the playoffs, then by God, I should be paid for those 6 hours overtime, not by mileage. We got to do better. I pay a lot of money in taxes, and it actually doesn't bother me that I pay a lot of money in taxes because our school system is so awesome. But we're really affecting our children with this move. Like, you guys say the kids they'll bounce? Yeah, I got 5 kids I got to sell this to. Appreciate you. All right? So please help us do better because we're trying our darndest swinging for the fences for you guys. Please vote no against this and let's rethink this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sheila DeVries.
Thank you, everyone, for providing the opportunity for me to speak today. I come to you as a mother and a resident of Pooler, a homeowner at the farm, and a voter. I am requesting that you vote against the rezoning proposal today. I don't disagree that there is a big issue with the continued growth of our population within Pooler and Chatham County areas, and that there are plans that need to be made. But I do disagree with lines being drawn on maps for numbers of children that are being represented in areas on a map so that schools can be more evenly attended. My child is not a number. My child's name is Caleb. Caleb is my son. He's a sophomore at New Hempstead High School. Caleb is a football player on the O-line at New Hempstead High School. He's planning on going out for the baseball team again with New Hempstead in January. He identifies as a New Hempstead high school student. He has friends at New Hempstead. It is important for me to protect Caleb's history and the privacy within this open meeting. But let me just tell you that he has had a very, very hard journey. But when he went to New Hempstead High School, he was accepted there. He feels that he belongs there. He's thriving, he's a great student, and most importantly, he's happy. Caleb is not a number on a map, and I request that you consider this and vote no to rezoning. I was touched by the Skylarks performance today. It was a beautiful, well-rehearsed, and was a unity of voices. Imagine if one of those students was told that they could no longer be part of the Skylarks because of being rezoned. They may be able to sing at another school, but the performance that we heard today would not have been the same. The rezoning proposal is what this would do to my son if it is approved. With the way the proposal is being presented, Caleb and his peers would be made to leave what he knows, where he is oriented, and where he is happy. Caleb and his peers would be pulled from the teams, classes, and potential opportunities that they are being offered now. Please vote no to the rezoning proposal. I also can't help to note that with the agenda today from the Susie King Taylor Community School, Mr. Kachmar noted student and family choice, Ms. Hall noting families being happy and wanting to be there, and Dr. Bringman concurring with these board members. Please keep notes of this while you are voting today and provide this choice and happiness that you mentioned to the students that the rezoning will affect. Disrupting education closeness and proximity can't be used as reasons to prove a decision on one end, but then it is done to the students on the other end. I've had a lot of ideas, like many other people are offering. Numbers of seniors leaving this year provide opportunity for the students that want to stay for the next several years. The numbers would decrease more over the time with graduations. Asking parents to provide transportation for students that are wanting to stay, putting trailers at the schools so that there's more room for the students, again, that are wanting to stay, staggering start and end times to spread out numbers in the buildings, place requirements on the builders that are creating more homes that are bringing up these numbers, maybe putting an incentive and having them pay for schools in some way. Again, I just ask you to vote no. And if you do vote yes, I do request that you put in people to be grandfathered in so that it doesn't affect the children that want to stay and that are currently happy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Stephanie Morgan.
My name is Stephanie Morgan. I have 5 children in the school. That was my husband that spoke earlier. I've emailed y'all several times over the years. I've come and I've spoke to the board many times on behalf of New Hampstead K-8. New Hampstead K-8 was built in and opened in 2021, coming off of COVID. I don't want to go into that. I emailed y'all all the changes that y'all have already put our school through, multiple, and many of them have been in the name of transportation. With every change that you've made in the name of transportation, it has made transportation worse every single time. The problem I have with this, and like the previous speaker spoke, was y'all spoke about community at this charter school. Have any of y'all come out to New Hampstead? Have y'all walked through the halls and you've seen that the K-8 and the high school, that we have become a community where there is literally a bridge that connects our school, and there is no other schools in our district like this. Okay, and we have programs that are bridging, band, JRTC. Did you watch the Veterans Parade and see them? Because our JRTC, which is Air Force, is the only one of its kind. And the thing is, I mean, I could go on and on. Media, art, we're bridging the gap. It is a community. So if you can vote yes on a charter school that has failing academics, but you're not going to vote yes on our community that is soaring through all the many changes that you have put our school through. As a matter of fact, I am on the school council at both schools, and I just sat through our middle of the year school board meeting, and you can literally see massive jumps in our K-8. And the families that are being affected, that are getting sent back to Godly, which is my families, those are the ones. Hold on, I need to collect myself, because this is an emotional thing. I have 5 children in this school. When y'all moved us, we were so excited. Once we got on board, because we weren't excited, we looked at the zoning map and said, this is stupid. This is going to create transportation problems. And you said, oh, no big deal. We have to alleviate Godly. Well, where was the expansion for Godly then? Because Godly has been overcrowded. New Hampstead has been overcrowded for years. Ms. Foltz has been saying, I'm overcrowded. So where's the expansions? Why are you just doing it now? Why, when you knew that Gould was closing, why did you stick Bloomingdale in our school? We could easily accept Gould. We could easily accept the West Chatham kids if Bloomingdale wasn't in our school. Why did you not postpone this? This is the problem that I'm having. Us parents want to ask you when the changes are going to stop for the K-8 family. When are they going to stop? Are you going to move us back to Godly, which you're putting at 1,800? The new expansion's only going to give them room for 1,900? I live on the border of that perimeter. Is my neighborhood going to end up getting moved to Bloomingdale? Because when we asked about the Part 2 phase, we got told that nobody knows who's being affected, when it's going to happen. So these families, are we going to get moved again? Because it's exhausting. I have 2 children with IEPs. We've been through so many changes. Please, I beg you, if you didn't, go back and read my email. I don't really, if you do pass this vote, once again, can we have people that get grandfathered in? I urge you, for the New Hampstead families, Michael Johnson is our rep. He has been out there. He has talked to our families. He is voting against it because he clearly sees that it is not the right thing for our families. Please take the time to vote against this proposal and go back and see what is right for our K-8 families and our New Hampstead community, because this isn't it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jackie Johnson? Yes. Yeah. And guys, I've asked you for 2 minutes. I've been very liberal.
Yes, thank you for that.
It's 3 minutes.
Okay.
3 minutes.
I practiced. It was 2:45. We'll see how it goes. So basically, I'm just going to tell you my story because it's the same story as so many other students who are at New Hampstead right now. But 2.5 years ago, our Pooler students were removed from the environment at College Station and placed in the new school. As expected, it's taken some time for them to get used to new uniforms, new bell schedules, things like that. But everyone has finally settled, including parents rearranging their work schedules in order to attend to the new bell schedules. However, now we're being told to do it again. There's a specific set of students I want to talk about, though, and that is the ones who didn't really get a lot of time to adjust, the ones who got moved from Godley Station to New Hampstead K-8 for their 8th grade year, and then once again moved again the following year to high school. My student, Brady Johnson, my son, is one of those. So now, basically, he's gotten used to his teachers, his counselors, his principal, and halfway through his high school career, he's being told that he yet again must move. This is not a move with an elementary or middle school. This is high school. This is going to affect his future. This can affect his college years and beyond. He's found his second family with his fellow marching band members. He's found his mentor and his band director, Mr. Weathers, and as a result, he's decided he wants to play the flute in college. This is not something that would have happened if he hadn't been there with Mr. Weathers. He's discussed his future with his assistant principals and his guidance counselor. He's made a plan for what's going to happen for the remainder of his high school term. His principal, Ms. Foltz, he knows her, he loves her, and he knows that she will support him. But now this long-range facilities plan basically just counts him as a number and used with many other numbers to balance the stat. It wants to rip away everything that he's built and make him start again halfway through his high school career. If this happens, that'll be 4 schools in 5 years that he's had to attend. It's just unacceptable. Now I look at my youngest son, who's at the K-8, and moved from Godley Station to the K-8, and is now going to be moved through his 8th grade year back to Godley Station, have no time to adjust before again having to move to another high school. This camaraderie that's been built between Big Hamp and Little Hamp, as we like to call it, has been preparing these students at the K-8 for attending the New Hampstead High School. All of this is being ripped away from them. The plans for the band, the communication and the working together that has been happening between the band to move them into the high school band, all of it being taken away. And not only that, but now we're afraid that because we've been rezoned so many times, this is going to happen, and in 2 years, are we going to get moved again? How much is too much? I'm not saying that there are problems with the entire LRFP, but there's a flagrant disregard for what these moves do to our students and what they do to our families and how they break our community, and I think that needs to be remedied. These moves are a constant disruption, and they have severe effects on the academic, social, mental health, and growth of our students. So I ask you to please vote no, and thank you, Michael Johnson.
Thank you very much. Chris Morgan? Okay. Any more discussion from the board? I'm going to make a statement, but anyone else?
I signed up to speak as well.
What is your name? Bonnie Hugh.
Bonnie Georgia, I received that you did get my son's Eli. He's the first student.
That's fine, come on up.
Thank you for hearing me.
Sure. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. So I was so proud of my son for being the first person to come up here and talk, but he was, I think, a little bit nervous. We haven't moved 6 times. He's gone to 6 different schools. And this is he moved from a charter school to an elementary, which was a big deal. But then we made this life decision that we wanted to come here for a better way of life. I'm a single mom, and we moved from Oregon, which is extremely expensive. And so I knew I could come as a teacher, but we left family there. We wanted a better way of life. And so it's been a really big move for him. Coming across the country, not living in the South, has been so many wonderful things that we've experienced, but also just the idea of stuff being so new has been really challenging. But Eli is, you saw he's a really special person, and I'm not as brave of a speaker as he is, but I'm also a teacher. I teach 2nd grade, and I teach at Bryan County Elementary, and I have seen, just in my school year of starting, I have had 4 kids who have come to me new and 4 kids who have left. And it is very challenging for these students. It takes months for me as a teacher to get them to see where they are, and then they end up, some end up having to leave again, and they're on to another. And the children that we have seen who have come in, who have moved a lot, they are missing. There is big spots in their education, whether you want to, even if you're going within a district, it's quite challenging. So as a teacher, I will say that yes, especially at the elementary, psychologically, they are very resilient, but they do lose things as far as academically because you are not in the actual same school. And I'm sure that is the same also in high school. I know socially and psychologically, moving in high school is extremely difficult. And I'm just so proud of my son, and this was a huge move for him, and he is succeeding, and he is really striving. He has not given up at all. And to hear that this has happened to his group of people that he's friends with, and now you're going to move them again, I know he's strong enough for me to say, but we've had to go through counseling to get through some of these things here. And you're asking people who may not have that capacity to have to go through that. And we all know the mental health crisis that is going on in our community for our children and especially our high school students. And I really would like to say that we've been through COVID. Us as adults have been through just a ton. And now you're asking our children to make another move, and now again to make another move. It's really a lot. And I hear all the wonderful things, and we have been so overwhelmed of how wonderful this school has been. Please do not make us move again, or the rest of these students. I don't have the answers. I just moved here, so a lot of the names I was like, I don't even know what's going on. But one thing I did notice is that when we talked about Bloomingdale, I was like, well, that's 380 students, and that'll be completed in 2025. So that's like a bulk of the students that you're asking us to move, and you're just flipping us for the new stuff that is going to be built that they're not even students yet. So why can't they move? And then also the Gould people, you made a big thing of it, and I think it's wonderful. It's so important that they be near where they are. So, but my community where my kid is, we're only 6 miles away, and you're asking us to move double that and go over the interstate, and he's going to be driving, and all these kids are going to be driving. There's just so many different safety, mental health issues. I don't have all the answers, but I really urge you to please. I think lots of this plan sound very good, but it sounds like New Hampstead and the Godly Station crew, they've gotten a lot of already moves that we really need to rethink this part of it. So
Thank you.
I urge you to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kachmar.
I had a few questions for superintendent and staff, but before I do, I just wanted to thank all the members of the public to come and share your thoughts, to also send us all the emails and phone calls, et cetera. Like someone else said, I mean, I haven't responded to all of them, but I've read all of them, even the cut and paste ones. But this is what this is about. It's about sharing concerns. And I want to make a comment. Nobody on this board or superintendent or staff is against anyone. No one is trying to hurt families or children. We're trying to make difficult decisions in trying circumstances. And so there's been a balancing of lots of different issues. But I've seen some emails where, why are you punishing us? Why are you trying to come after it? Things like that are just not true. There are lots of complicated factors here that that everyone is approaching with the best of intentions, as far as I've seen. I have 3 questions. First question is, on the Formey, Williams, Schumann stuff, has anything changed since that was rolled out? Because I'm confused. Am I missing something?
No,
Okay,
that was
that
in
hasn't
the
changed.
original plan.
Okay. Second, the athlete.
Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something there. Second, if athletes move from one school to another, are they eligible to play immediately, or is GHSA making them sit out a year? Or what happens there?
So if they move from one school to another based on a rezoning, then their eligibility is not impacted and they can immediately interplay.
Okay. And here's my third question. We don't have a motion pending yet, right?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Here's my third question. Can we kick this to January? And here's why. So I understand the need for making decisions. I understand the need for finality and moving on. When we had this initial rollout when this is rolled out, I asked some questions and others asked questions about, could we grandfather, could we phase, could we keep kids in their current school, but rezone kids matriculating from 5 to 6 and 8 to 9 to their new zone school. So in other words, kids where it can stay in the schools where they are now and work through that process, but 8th graders now who would be going to New Hampstead High School next year would go to Groves instead. In other words, or Beach. In other words, we would do the rezoning but still phase it. And I was told the primary concern there was transportation. And they're also balancing capacity issues. So I'm sitting here, I've been reflecting on this since the updated plan was rolled out. That was a couple of days ago that I got notice of it. Looking at emails and talking to constituents or parents, listening to people today, it seems to me we can do some more polishing. Transportation is a key issue. And I've been saying for months to the gentleman who said, pay him more, I've been saying, pay him more. It's not going to solve the problem immediately. It could have unintended consequences, like the millage rate goes up because we need to pay more. So it's not just as simple as, hey, let's just pay him more and keep the millage rate the same. There are consequences. And on our capacity issue, we've had these capacity issues for years. And if we can solve those capacity issues with a rezoning, but also having empathy and letting kids phase out and grandfather them in their schools, we can slowly solve the capacity issue instead of overnight or over 2 years. So I think we've heard some comments and ideas here today that maybe we can go back and polish this some more and work out a plan that maybe it is more difficult for us administratively, but it's focused on the students and it balances more the competing needs that we've heard. So my third question is, do we have to vote on this today? I know you want to vote on this today. Can we go back and do some more polishing and to make a decision in January?
So obviously, I work at the will of the board, and if that is what is the request, we will. For those that I had an opportunity to meet with face-to-face, I shared the due diligence that we did with New Hampstead, which showed pros and cons to a phased approach, pros and cons to multiple approaches. I myself and the team applied the same level of thinking and refining and ideation as we did to Gould. And what I will say is that there are pros and cons to each and every one of the possibilities. The phased process did not look to provide the relief based on the data that I had. It also opens up issues around grandfathering. And if I have a kid in the 10th grade and a kid in the 8th grade, now I have kids at 2 different schools. There are pros and cons to every, there is not one answer to this. And I promise, we sat for I don't even know how many hours to brainstorm what we could do at New Hampstead High School to relieve the family anxiety around this. It's not comfortable for me either. I live in Barrowick, Southbridge. I understand what the concerns are. But when I come to you with the revision, it's going to also create another group of people who are upset and not happy. So again, I'm at the will of the board. I am happy to go back to the drawing table again. It will never resolve and make everyone happy. It just will not.
The one thing I wanted to mention that I forgot was one of the things we could consider is if we do phase and grandfather, you would have to provide your own transportation.
It's
That-
not, so actually,
perhaps.
it's not a transportation issue. It's a building capacity issue.
Ms. Hall.
Rather than save the whole thing for January, could we pull, we've asked that the Formie situation be pulled? And
Excuse me, would you please listen? Thank you.
and if we could pull the New Hampstead rezoning only, but let's go on and vote on the rest of the package, because that can't happen?
No, I'm not saying it can't.
We've
You
not done
decide.
a motion
You
yet.
tell me.
We've not done a motion
Oh,
yet.
okay, so, well, I'm gonna move this along. I move that we accept the plan Dr. Watts has put before us, with the exception of the Formie situation and the New Hampstead rezoning. The high school, the New
High school.
Hampstead High
High
School rezoning until January.
Do I have a second? It's seconded by Ms. Howard Hall. Okay, discussion. So I thought long and hard about this over the last few days. I understand passion. I understand protecting our kids. What I don't understand is bashing another school. That is totally unacceptable. Those parents care about their kids as much as you do. They care about their kids' education as much as you do. And let me tell you something about Beach. Beach has also produced people that have gone to several military academies. Beach is also home to our only medical program.
Yes.
I understand your passion, but please, please respect other parents' choice. I want what's best for your kids. We all do. And that's the other thing. Because we did receive some emails that were very snarky, that were very, well, I'm going to write this, but you won't read it. Understand that we do. We have toiled over this. We have spent hours discussing this. We have, Dr. Watts and I, we have talked at 5 o'clock in the morning about this. And I'm not a morning person. So, please understand, And we do appreciate your passion. We understand your passion. But please, please don't bash our other schools. Because when you bash those other schools, you're bashing educators,
Exactly.
okay? You're bashing parents. So, and by the way, I'm going to say it again. Thank you for showing up today. We do want to listen to you. Anyone else? Dr. Hoskins Brown, then Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. My question is about the motion on the floor to approve the plan with the exception, with those two exceptions. And Dr. Watts has said to us that there's going to be reverberations as we look at reconciliation. So what's the likelihood, Dr. Watts or members of your team, that there's going to have to be a revisit to any of the things that would be approved today because of options exercised with New Hampstead High School or Formie, Schumann, A.B. Williams?
So on my feet today, it would be difficult for me to unwrap it and to really understand, because as I think I've described to you all, one piece of this is a domino for another piece. So I am reserved in offering anything right now. I almost would rather us just delay the whole thing.
And that's why I'm sorry. I apologize for putting it that way. What I was thinking was, it looks like we may make it messier for you if we pass this motion and then you have to undo something else.
Right, because it's so interconnected. Undoing one thing undoes other things.
Other things, okay. So you would rather that this motion not pass and that you look at the whole long-range plan as a package so that you have facility and looking at the different moving parts?
I will do whatever I'm asked to do.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on Mr. Johnson.
Real quick is, I think that because of, after hearing what Dr. Watts said, I think we just need to table the entire motion, table the plan until, like Mr. Cashmar said, until January. Not just because it would cause a spider web effect with what is actually in here, even though would not support it. It would also give those folks in West Chatham one more chance to get their voices out, more people than just here next Tuesday at West Chatham Middle School to come talk to myself and to you and to staff directly, getting as many people out there, because West Chatham Middle is going to be affected as well. It's not just New Hampstead and High School and New Hampstead K-8. It's Godley Station is going to be affected. I know Godley is in the 8th district, but a lot of their people still live in the 7th district, kind of like a lot of people who go to New Hampstead live in the 8th district. So it will give I think it might give us more data. Well, I mean, we like to say that we're data-driven. I think that it would be a better idea just to table the entire motion until January.
Okay.
So I guess I make a motion to table it till January.
Well, not yet. Dr. Bringan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, President Moss. Reverend Smith and I were here chatting about how much it hurt us as Beach High alumni to hear a parent come in and talk about how our school isn't good enough for families. And if those parents were passionate enough to say we wanted to go to New Hampstead, should everybody just go to New Hampstead? I'm breathing, Lord. Thank you, President Moss, for saying it, because we cannot have a community that wants to tear down. We aren't trying to tear down anything. We are trying to make it better. It's just painful to make it better. So please continue to engage. But as Mr. Kachmar said, please engage positively with solutions, like Mr. Morgan, Ms. White. There were a bunch of great thoughts today and great thoughts in emails that were solutions, because complaining is not a solution. So please come with ideas. Help us massage, round, smooth, whatever word you need to, but please do not tear down, because as Dr. Watts talked about earlier in her 100-day entry day report, she figured out real quickly that everything she was investigating circles around culture. And unfortunately, our community has a culture of tearing down schools that are subpar, supposedly. I was zoned to go to Beach High. I drove past other schools. Would have been a heck of a lot shorter transportation trip for me to go to Windsor. But the school board at that point in time said I was zoned there. Hallelujah for being zoned there, because it made me the man I am today. And the reason that I sit in front of you as both an educator, a healthcare provider, and a school board member. So please, community, come alongside, don't destroy.
Mr. Smith.
I echo the sentiments of both President Moss as well as Dr. David. I think it needs to be said. So another parent made a comment earlier, their children are not numbers. Don't treat their children as numbers. And I echo that same sentiment when we talk about Beach High School. Those students are not just numbers. Those students are excellent. Those teachers are excellent. The administrators there are excellent. They may not reflected in numbers, but that is an amazing school, and as its 5th District School Board member, I would be wrong if I did not make that statement. So thank you.
Okay, now, let's, yes, I'm sorry, Dr. Howard Hall.
No, I just want to dispel one statement said about scholarships. My son attended a high school here, played football. I was a football mom, so I understand everything everybody's talking about. That particular school won only 1 game per year. He only experienced 4 wins, but he ended up getting a full scholarship to play football and became All-American. So it's not that they cannot get a scholarship if they attend another school, because I'm here to tell you that that's just not true. He was also not recruited, but they came out and they evaluated him from the Buccaneers and the Jaguars. Just so happened he had gotten an injury. And he came from a school where they only won 1 game per year. And not only that, when he went to college, they won a national championship. So we don't want to just think that if they're going to another school that doesn't have a winning team, that they lose all hope and that they won't be scholarships. On the other hand, I do understand, and I listened on today, and I am in agreement with tabling this so we can take it into consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Morse, can I rescind my motion at this time?
You may.
Okay, I rescind my motion.
Okay, so I will accept another motion.
So you have to get approval from the person who seconded it.
Okay, who seconded? Oh, you approve. Thank you. This is a quandary for me. Okay, so we have another. Have you made the motion, Mr. Smith? It was never a motion. Okay, well, will someone make another motion? There's no motion pending. Okay, so.
Other requests to appear before the board.
No.
I like what you said. Oh, there are?
Yes.
There's public,
Okay, so what are we doing? Are we tabling this until January?
Sir, would you like a staff member to read a resolution for the board's action?
No.
Right now, you don't have anything on the floor to table, I think is the dilemma.
Well, we're not tabling.
You're just not going to do anything.
So somebody could make a motion to approve this plan or not. And if there's no motion,
then we just move
forward on the agenda.
Okay.
There's no action. We're the government. We're good at that. There's no action.
Okay, so I have been instructed to move on. So, okay. So we have, I'm going to move on to other appearances. We have Ms. Lorraine Bowers.
Good
Good evening.
Evening. Evening.
It has been an interesting board meeting. I just want to say I thank you all. I see the passion. I see the stress you go through in making decisions. I see it, and I commend this board for all that you do. My name is Lorraine Bowers. I am the new CAE president here in Chatham County. I'm your local union rep.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I was elected along with the new executive board. My board member consists of Ms. Alicia Hicks. She is our vice president. Ms. Raven Robinson, she is our secretary treasurer. And Mr. Byron Bowers, he is our past president. I just want to let the board know that I'm the new union rep. I will not belabor the point. I thank you all for all that you do. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Okay. No, we got one more. Maureen Brown?
Hello again. Mr. Moss, Dr. Watts, and Mr. Smith. If y'all don't know, I have a child that's in SPED. And it's now been 2.5 years. And according to the IDA, section 300.100.1, my child is supposed to have a free, appropriate public school education. It's free, and it's public. It's not appropriate, and it's not even an education. I have been asking for an appropriate education for my child, and nothing has been done for now 2.5 years. For 2.5 years. I don't know if it's just because the color of my skin that y'all won't move forward and try to make sure that my child get what she needs. Because I have a friend who does not look like me, who came to one of the board members and said something, and within 24 hours, their child got everything that they needed. Why is it that I still have to wait 2.5 years and my child is not getting the education that she needs? Yet, y'all like to say accountability. Y'all like to say listening. Y'all like to say, hey, I hear you. Nothing has been done, and it's been a month since I talked to the three of y'all. All I get is people that are deceivers, who say they're going to do something, but they don't do it. At this point, every October and every March, the school board receives money for my child because she's in SPED. Now, every SPED student, if people don't understand this, they get anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 per SPED student so they can have the appropriate education. I don't understand why we want to sit here and say, oh, okay, I'm listening, I hear you, and I want the best for your child. And for 2.5 years, she has been ignored, she has been neglected, and it is not acceptable. At what point are y'all going to be held accountable for neglecting the SPED students? Because at this point, I can't see it. But y'all talk about all the money that y'all spending for this new literacy program. But my child can't even get an appropriate education? That's all I wanted. All I wanted was somebody to sit down and talk to me, but no one would. Y'all have ignored me. Y'all have sent people to intimidate and bully. Y'all have been bullying everybody else.
Thank you.
I hear you, Mr. Moss, but something needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But you didn't cut anybody else off because guess what? It's okay. It's okay to keep neglecting the SPED students. Remember that.
Okay, any more business? Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all for coming today.